Hello and welcome to another edition of Send It Mate Podcast. I'm Caleb.
I'm Josh.
I'm Couchy.
And I reckon we're just about as excited as we've been
for a while. Yeah, a long time.
Because for today's episode, we have someone who we've been following for quite a while, watched all his videos on YouTube, love his work.
He has swayed many people in their decisions to purchase multiple products in the hunting community and the shooting community.
And let's face it, in the shooting community, you buy one thing, you just want to keep spending money. It's a very expensive pursuit. But yeah, so tonight we've got Ozzie reviews.
How you going?
Very well, guys. Great to be with you, and appreciate the opportunity to have a chat with you all.
Oh, thank you for coming on.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
I was actually going to add, if I'm the most exciting thing that you've had on the show for a while, that doesn't say much about your show.
Oh, talking to these two knuckleheads every week is just so exciting.
Well, all right, then we won't talk you up. Bloody hell. Well, it is exciting. I mean, it's actually one of the best things is you're thinking about buying a firearm or a piece of kit, and you're sitting there going, oh, I kind of want some genuine review and feedback of someone who's actually used the thing, not just a salesman in a store. And obviously they've got the agenda of trying to sell you the thing so they can make a profit. So it's the best thing to have a first-hand review of someone who knows what they're talking about firstly. So, I mean, I guess that's why we're excited.
Definitely. Yeah. And the fact that you're not biased in your reviews as well. You just, and you say this on your channel, you just, say it how it is. And that's helpful because you actually helped me in my decision to buy a Ticker A1 Tactical over the Rigger Precision.
Yeah, man, good choice. They're a really great rifle, and I've got a number of friends who have done the same, and they just absolutely love the thing. I mean, I think, thinking back now, what was it like using that Winchester ammo? I think it was through that, and notoriously, I've never had good results with Winchester, and that thing was shooting like 0.3 of an inch, 5 shots out of the box, at 100, and it's like, well, what more could you possibly want?
Yeah, very true. I think the other positive about you as well is we've all seen plenty of reviews from America and Europe and all that. Just having an Aussie guy that can tell you the truth.
Yeah, that's it, mate. It's a funny thing, because a lot of companies have very much tried to, I guess, muscle in on what I do. And I've had a few falling outs with some of the major companies here in Australia where they've dropped me or I've just walked away from them because I just won't be swayed, just along the lines of, oh, we saw this review. Oh, I don't like how you referred to our ammo and it is, not accurate. Well, yeah, that's how it worked at the time. So, yeah, just that sort of stuff. And that's why I just stay clear of them as much as I can. And just get basically sponsored by you guys who watch me. They're the guys who sponsor me at the end of the day, and then that way I'm free to review things as I want. I'm not held to any brand or anything like that. And it's just like as if you were seeing someone out the range who's got a product that you like, and you go, oh mate, what do you think of that? And then they just tell you their honest thoughts. And that's basically what I've done. It's nothing it's nothing sort of ingenious. It's just how it normally would be if you saw someone at the range.
I think that it resonates with a lot of people. I think Aussies especially, in that it's a genuine, open and honest review, and you give the good and the bad. You're not just pumping something up. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And I think that's where people go, well, hey, this guy's telling the truth because he said, these things are good, but this is bad. So
you think that the companies out there that have those queries, you think that the constructive criticism they'd be able to build and better their own product from, especially if it's someone on the ground, boots on the ground doing it, and you're just saying how it is, surely they can go back and go, oh, we've got some improving to do. Let's work on it and make the product better.
Yeah, mate, I have had a couple of companies like that where I've reviewed a product and they've gone, no, not fair enough. We take that on the chin. That's really good. And then they've actually said to me, oh, would you mind doing an update? We're going to go away, back to the drawing board, improve those things. Would you be happy to do another review? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Then you have some people, though, who carry on like children and then badmouth the living hell out of me. We all know where I'm going with this one. And suggest that I don't know how to clean a firearm and suggest everything else. Yep, there's other people who have bought the same firearm having exactly the same issues, who have sent the same issue on video to me to say, hey, mate, I'm glad you called it for what it was, because I'm having exactly the same issues. So, and those people who go out of their way to badmouth me and everything, well, really, mate, let's be honest, they're just going to do themselves an injustice, because, the consumer isn't stupid. They look at that sort of stuff and they go, geez, do I really want to be dealing with a company that carries on like this? Or a company that turns around and says, hey, we've taken it on the chin, we're going to make some improvements. Would you care to have a look at the product again? And then I do. And then people are like, wow, geez, isn't that some great customer support? Like one of them recently, like that Bighorn Armory, the 454 Kasul. I mean, man, I was so disappointed, like $4,500 lever gun. And, I couldn't even cycle the ammunition in it. And all it was, they basically put the loading ramp in for I think it was a 460 Smith & Wesson. So it was only a slight little bit of a difference, but it was enough to obviously make it malfunction. The guys at Bighorn, who was a friend of mine's rifle, and he got onto them. Like, this guy just did not stuff around. He just went, give us your address. We will express post out the parts for you. And on top of that, we will pay an armor in Australia to install it, fix it all up for you, and please accept our apologies. To me, man, that's customer service. And that's what any person who's spent $4,500 on a firearm would expect.
No joke.
So once again, like I said in that, pretty disappointed that it didn't work out of the box. But in saying that, I can't fault their customer service there. And then once it was fixed, ran like a dream. And it was just reviewed exactly as it performed for me at the time. That's it, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah. I guess as bad as the first experience was with it, being great customer service, you'd probably go back to them again, sort of regardless of the first experience.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that manager had also explained to a friend of mine that, they've identified the fault at their factory where that has happened and how it's happened. Whether that be, I don't know the nitty gritty of it, but whether it be a parts, bin next to the parts bin for the 454 and the 460, whatever, they've put into place a new procedure there. That's what they've said, and it will not happen again. So they couldn't do enough. And especially being international, normally you get just forgotten about with these companies. But I take my hat off to them for that. Fantastic. I mean, what more could you want? Yeah, it's an inconvenience, but not only are they getting everything to you that should be there, but paying, whatever the bill may be, for a local armourer to install it all and fix it up. So, it's great to see that sort of customer service still exists.
Yeah, sure.
100%. So do you have a lot of companies reaching out to you to do the reviews, or is it more you do it by yourself?
Yeah, mate, a bit of both. In the beginning, there was a lot of companies that would reach out, and what they basically would do would be kind of like buddy up to try to get you to review a lot of their stuff, and roundabout sort of a way, I guess, sway you to be along the lines of what their promotion is for that particular product. And then it'd be, well, no, I want to use it as this, and I'll be shooting this ammo through it. Some companies would prefer to see ammo that they import fired through the firearm only, because obviously whichever one shoots well, the person will go and buy that. Things like, for example, one company didn't like the fact that I used optics that wasn't sold or imported by them, and I've gone, well, you don't pay me, so it's it's up to me to use whatever optic that I like. So things like that. There was a lot of that in the initial years I found, and then I just moved more and more away from it, where I thought, well, I don't need these companies. Like, I'll just go and buy the stuff, or if I've got a mate of mine that's bought a new firearm and wants me to have a look at it, I'll just go and have a look at it that way. I'll just change up the business model a little bit there, so to speak. So, and that's all I did. And you know, but even now I still get sponsorship offers come through, a lot from optics, you know, torch manufacturers, all that sort of stuff. I'm just not interested. You know, I don't want to tie myself down to one product. You know, and even one of the major torch suppliers here in Australia that I was doing a lot of reviews for. I mean, look, I'll tell you now, they even offered me a discount, in the sense of, for every torch sold from my review, I'd end up getting like you know, kickbacks from it. Like, it was about 10%, something like that, from memory. And I refused, and they were like, "What? You really?" I'm like, "No, I don't want it." Like, by all means, you can give me a discount code for my viewers so they can go and get stuff at a discount, but I'm not interested in your money. And I think that really sort of, in today's world, that confuses a lot of companies, because they're like, everyone's got a price. Well, no, they don't. So, you know, and they get very shocked with that. But at the end of the day, like I said before, you know, I touched on, consumers aren't stupid. Like, people have followed me long enough, and they know what my general likes and dislikes are. So if I started promoting something excessively, and especially if it was pretty cheaply made and not of good quality, like, the guys watching me at home would just go, "Hang on, this is how Ozzie normally does it. Like, what's going on here?" So that's it. At the end of the day, as long as I've got breath in me, I'll continue to do the reviews as I see fit, and I'll just fund it myself, and also with the help of, you know, you guys who watch me. So that's it.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, I think that's probably the best way to remain unbiased, and that really does come through. So, again, well done, and kudos to you for doing all that.
Yeah, thanks.
I have to ask, because we're on the topic of your channel, how did that come about?
The channel?
Mm.
So, mate, what annoyed me in the initial stages was, if I wanted to buy a product, you know, you jump on YouTube like most people do, and this isn't just firearms specific, this is just products in general. But in particular, what annoyed me about firearms products was that you'd have people doing like an unboxing, and then they wouldn't go out to the range and shoot it, you know, and you're just like, oh, yeah, okay, it's nice to see what it comes with, but I want to see what it gets used with, and how it shoots. And then you'd have other videos where there was no unboxing, but they were just shooting, you know, at targets, and there was no real groups, there was nothing done. And I thought to myself, I've got to, like, this is frustrating me so much. I've got to bring this together and be thorough with it, so that for the people who love the specs, you know, the real geeky guys and girls out there that love all the specs, there's something in it for them with the desktop review. But then the people who just want to see how the damn thing shoots, and with different ammo that we can get over the counter here in Australia, well, there's that as well. But then on the flip side of it too, it was designed around being just fed up with the lies and everything that I saw in the media about shooters and shooting in general. And I thought to myself that this is so far removed from how it really is. You know, they just get that smidgen fraction of, like, what, point something of a percent, you know, of firearm use being criminal use compared to licensed shooters. And they just really promote that in such a negative light. And I sort of got, I guess, really sick of seeing people react in a very negative way when I bring up the fact that I enjoy shooting. And I just think, like, hang on, like, why would you be sort of tainting me with the brush of a criminal? So, you know, that was the other really driving factor with it as well, that I wanted to promote it, bring more people into the sport, and grow the sport and the hobby, whether it be from a feral pest control point of view, recreational hunter, or a target shooter, or a collector, or whatever. I wanted to bring more people into it and grow that, and also get the information out there on what was really going on.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. With obviously starting YouTube, how long did it take before you realized there was something going to come of it?
Probably in the first 3 months, it went from basically just being, okay, I've got a little bit of time now on the weekend to be able to review something that I like, to requests. And then those requests grew. And then all of a sudden there was that many, I couldn't keep up with them. And in the initial stages, like I remember my partner at the time, we were having a discussion about saying, well, geez, like this is sending us completely broke. And it was just the pride in me, even though people would say, start up a a donation system, because back then, before Patreon, there used to be a donation system directly on YouTube. And I just couldn't do it. It was just the pride in me. I thought, no one's going to want to donate to me or anything like that. But, it was the cost of running everything was just tremendous. Especially when you start doing a long distance review, like usually you're firing about 100, 150 rounds of ammo. So, if you're firing that like 308, 300 Win Mag, like look at the prices of it now. Like it's, you're looking at $250, $3 a shot. So it soon adds up for doing a review. So I guess, in the initial stages, that was where I started to go into, okay, you've got to listen to what your fans are saying. And they're saying, hey, we want to be able to help you out because we see what you're doing here. Let us help you. And then I thought, okay, I just got to do it. And then I did it. And then it was like, wow, okay. And then I had the I guess, more funding to be able to do more requests. And then it just grew and grew and grew. But then it grew to such a stage where I thought, okay, I'm going to have to drop back now and start focusing more on YouTube, because it was growing and growing. But then what happened was, it was when Google had pretty much enforced a lot of their new rules on YouTube. And then overnight, I had, 300 odd videos that were monetized, and virtually all of them were demonetized bar about 5. So they just cut you completely off at the legs. So, something that was going from earning a couple of grand a month, all of a sudden it was $100 a month. So so then I had to look at the business model again, so to speak, and just go, okay, well, how am I going to fund this and how I'm going to do it? So that's when I started to go into the merchandise stuff to spread the word, to get more people to come to the channel and stuff like that. So bit of a balancing act, but, I'm doing what I can do in the time that I've got.
Has YouTube, have they continued to ban your reviews, or have they sort of flexed up a bit on their rules?
Bit of both, mate. They change their rules all the time. So, for example, what you'll find predominantly is, if there's a firearm that the anti-gun crowd don't like here in Australia, it will be demonetized or it will be banned completely. And I'll give you an example: the Remington 7615. They banned that completely. It was removed from YouTube. It was what they have it down as, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was inappropriate material or something along the lines of that. Like, I was doing nothing wrong in that, like I'm shooting a manually operated category B for Bravo firearm, yet here I am, using the Ruger SR556 semi-auto 30-round magazines, bang, 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 no problem, fully monetized, everything's all good. And then they did it with Warwick, with the Warwick Arms review as well, and then they did it with the Oceana review as well. So it's like anything that's kind of cool and the antis don't like in Australia, it just either gets banned or demonetized. And the problem with demonetizing is, apart from obviously getting 0.3 of a cent per view back, and that's what the rate is, it's not much, but it won't come up in recommendations. So like, people will be watching just videos in general, and if you've got a whole heap of demonetized videos, they just don't come up as recommendations. So people just don't view it unless they specifically put in that product into the search field on YouTube. So, mate, they do absolutely everything they can to try to stop you.
Does that take just one person to report it, or is that something that sort of needs a certain amount of people to actually have an issue with it?
Well, mate, it's more algorithms. Like I'm a big fan of Tom Gresham's Gun Talk in the US. I've been listening to him for years, and he said many years ago about this was coming, and I thought that surely that's impossible, you know. But I see it. Like every month I lose about 1,200 subscribers. They just taken it away from me. And I've got a number of people who have said I've had to resubscribe for the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th time. YouTube just keep automatically unsubscribing me from your channel. So where I'm at the moment, I'm only at what, 66,000 subscribers. Mate, I should be well over 200,000. Well over. But what they do is, like, I might get, say, 1,700 to 2,000 new subscribers in a month, but yeah, they'll take away 1,200 to 1,500 somewhere there, and just unsubscribe them on you. So, you know,
well, that's because I've had to subscribe to your channel 3 times now.
There you go.
Yeah, like I'll just be like, because I'll search for your reviews, nothing comes up in my feed. And I'll search for your reviews, and then I'll be like, well, wait a second, I subscribed. Why isn't it coming up with notifications and things like that? Go back in, resubscribe. That's quite all right. I thought it was just me not being able to work my phone properly.
Yeah, mate. No, it's ridiculous. And when you see it, it's very frustrating. But they're trying to stop me on the principle of trying to cut off my money supply, which obviously isn't going to work because that's not what I'm doing it for. I don't have sponsors and all the rest of it. So they're fighting a losing battle. I mean, I don't care if they were to demonetize every single video on YouTube. I'll just keep posting them. So
yeah.
It
kind of sounds like
no difference.
Kind of sounds like that YouTube's sort of stepping over that line a little bit, where it would almost benefit us to have another platform to actually use other than YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of people have gone to Rumble and stuff, but the problem is it's the web traffic. You just don't get the web traffic on the other platforms at the time, you know, that we're doing this interview naturally. And I find that's a very frustrating thing because, you know, YouTube used to be an awesome platform. And I get it. Like, I completely understand. Like, if there was someone out there carrying on like dangerously with a firearm and, you know, and they were, say, for example, doing a whole heap of illegal modifications or, you know, promoting like, you know, criminal use of it or something like that. I get that. I understand that. But you guys, you know, you've seen the videos. Every single video is in compliance with all the laws. I'm licensed. Everything's registered. Like, I'm following the anti's laws, you know, that they got in 96. Like, I'm following them. So don't get angry at me following your system, but enjoying myself, you know?
It is super frustrating.
That wasn't the plan. You weren't supposed to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You're not happy with you enjoying yourself.
It's amazing what they'll allow, what videos they will allow on YouTube at the moment. I mean, there's obviously, it's a different time in the world's history at the moment. And, you know, we have all these flamboyant people and things like that can just post up whatever they want, whether that's in line with good health or bad health, at no matter what age as well. But yet they're allowed to have their platform and their voice and do what they wish to, uncensored. Yet we do when we're censored and we're following the law to a T. It makes no sense in my mind.
Well, I think that's kind of speaks to the ignorance of the people who have a problem with things, is they don't actually understand and they don't take the time to be educated and actually go, well, what am I looking at here? Is this in contradiction to any sort of laws, or is this someone doing an honest, open review, something they're allowed to do, they're enjoying themselves? Like, yeah, I don't get it. It's such a massive contradiction, and it's very unfortunate because a lot of people miss out for something that's not wrong.
Yeah, and then if we try to do that towards them, all hell would break loose.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It'd be the world's ending. So it just wouldn't happen.
It's super frustrating. Anyway, I think it's probably a good time to delve deeper into the man behind Ozzie Reviews. So I'll ask a few questions of him. Ozzie, where are you from?
So you're talking about now, or where I was born, or where I've lived, or
both?
Both.
Whatever you want to share.
All inclusive.
Okay, so one thing that a lot of people don't know about me is when I was in when I was a teenager, I did some schooling in Scandinavia. And then I lived and worked there for a while. So, Finland, Sweden, Denmark. And, I was very much like I enjoyed, doing hunting and stuff like that there as well. I was born here in Australia, though, so I had no issues in obviously coming back here and things. At the moment, I've got a 300-acre cattle property. So kind of my nearest town is Boona in southeast Queensland. So it's I'm about half hour out of town. So mainly because, if I bought a block in town, they wouldn't be happy with what I do. I'm sure there'd be some complaints, but yeah, so that's where I'm from, and I guess that answers the question.
Well, it does, and it's the perfect spot, I think, to do the reviews, and it's something that comes across. You sort of see your range set up there, and I think all of us wish we had the same sort of setup, to be honest.
Well, officially, it's a sighting in area because for having a range, it'd have to be approved under the law up here. But so it's not a range; it's just a sighting in area.
Yep. All right. Yep.
Which it is to sight in. But yeah, it is good because I've just like the gully that I sight in at, like it's perfect. I mean, apart from a little bit of earthworks at the front just to level things out, it was sort of like it was made for it. And then I've got basically a fair sized hill behind it, which would be probably about maybe about 600 meters, like thick, so to speak. So it doesn't matter what you're using, it's not going to get through that. So but it is funny because if you look at, like, if I ever move my target at 100, you see in the backstop where I've been sort of drilling away over the years, it's like it's like a little tunnel, like Ho Chi Minh City or something. You see this tunnel going through. So I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if I'll ever get to the other side of the hill one day. But it's only about probably, I don't know, half a meter deep at the moment. So that's pretty good over the last 8 years.
Yeah, you got a few decades more at least.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I'm just imagining you selling up and covering it over, and then decades down the track, someone's sort of like, "What the heck's all this metal going on in the ground?"
They're prospecting. They're like, I've struck it rich.
They would have struck gold there. But, the way copper is, the cost of that, probably be worth a bit with what's sitting in there.
Yeah, that's true. What was Europe like? Doing some schooling in that. What did you learn? Like basic, art of 12 sort of school, or
yeah. So just like a senior year. So basically, it's very different. Like the culture over there is extremely different. What I mean by different is you do get a lot more, even though they're socialist countries, a lot of the Scandinavian countries, very much socialist. There's a lot of freedom in the sense of, like it's accepted that, you drink at a young age and things like that. Like, you have like family get-togethers, and it's quite normal it's quite normal for someone who's 13 to sit there and have a glass, a little bit of wine or a bit of beer with their meal, that sort of thing. I guess as a teenager and going into my 20s, the best thing about it there was at least you could go into Burger King, which is, Hungry Jack's equivalent over there, or McDonald's, and beer was on tap. So, so yeah, that was a really good deal. So, if you were a little bit too intoxicated, you got thrown out of a nightclub, you'd usually see people going into McDonald's to finish themselves off.
That's pretty cold. Beer on tap in Hungry Jack's. I couldn't, to be honest.
Yeah.
What was the hunting like there?
Mate, quite good, especially in Sweden. There was a lot of moose, that type stuff, and there was really two calibers at the time, which was 6.5 by 55 naturally, and 30-06. They were the two big calibers. So, most of the homes in sort of some of the rural areas where I was there were all 6.5, or they'd be 30-06 if they were going for something a bit bigger.
Nice. Were you lucky enough to take a moose yourself?
No, mate, never shot a moose myself. But yeah, other deer and things like that naturally. But yeah, never got a moose myself.
Fair enough.
Are the fallow better in Europe compared to?
In what way? You're talking like just the general condition of them, and
Yeah, the size of I guess the size of them, the condition, the bloodline, things like that.
yeah, I'd say probably the big thing that I find a difference with over there as opposed to here, especially up here in Queensland. I mean, it's pretty much the same down where you are. Is we seem to have times where we go through terrible drought. So it doesn't matter what species of animal it is. I mean, geez, even your cattle, you go through some drought and that, and the condition on cattle can look a lot worse. And it's the same, obviously, with deer. So what I find is in those Scandinavian countries, like, you don't really have that issue because it's obviously it snows every year, and then when the spring comes and everything comes alive and there's all the green, shoots coming up, and they eat that and they're eating very well and, drinking plenty of water and things, where here I've seen some deer where, they're not in really good nick at all. And it's because they've been in very arid and bad conditions where there's been a really bad season. So yeah, in that sense, I don't see it as the same.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I only ask because I see a lot of photography from Europe, and their fallow just seems to be a lot healthier than ours in comparison. But there's a lot bigger trophies as well. So
yeah, mate. There's a very strong hunting culture throughout, like sort of the Scandinavian areas, and once again, it's it's viewed as quite normal, especially in those more rural areas where they can go out and do the hunting and stuff. I mean, if you look at like Seiko and Tika, a lot of their advertising, or what are they doing? You've got a hunter, walking through all this harsh winter and the landscape and everything, and it's really like that. Like in Finland, the coldest that I've been in is -42, and that's degrees Celsius, and it's just insane. Like when you're in that sort of cold, I have no interest in hunting in that cold. It's not fun. I prefer to be inside, sitting around the fireplace, enjoying a drink with some friends or something. Like I don't see the fun in being out in -42. I've been there, done it, and never again.
Sounds fair enough, I reckon. All right, Ozzie, we'll go on to the next one. What's your favourite food?
Thai food.
Right.
oh,
Is that from having been over there and tried the jiu-jitsu stuff, or just like it?
Yep. So one of the guys I went to school with, I don't know if anybody's into kickboxing, but he calls himself John Wayne Parr. I don't know if you've heard of him, the Australian kickboxer.
I heard the name. Yep.
So Wayne is his first name, his real name, Wayne Parr. He and I went to school together, and we used to train at my cousin ran a dojo, and we used to train there for a while. So it was funny actually when I caught up with him, like just online. We were sort of texting away, and he said, "Oh, come down to the Gold Coast and let's have a spar." And I'm thinking, it's been a few years, and I know you're a half my height back then, but you're probably twice as tough as me now. You'll probably kick the living crap out of me, so I'll decline the offer. So, but he's a real nice guy, and some of the videos I've seen of him now, is exactly how I remember him when we were teenagers, like just a really level-headed sort of guy. So, he went over there at that time doing a lot of fighting and training, but mine was more backpacking. When I was a teenager. That was my experience over there, and traveling up through Asia and all the way up to Hong Kong and China at the time. So
it's funny how the especially Asian cuisines, once you having it over there versus having it in Australia is very different. Like they kind of water it down a bit over here and change it. The Western.
Well, see, I like chili. So in Thailand, if you say you want Thai hot, like that dish is coming out like lava. Where here in Australia, you go into a Thai restaurant and say, I want Thai hot, and it'll come out with some bird's eyes on it, and that'll be about it. So yeah, it's completely different in that sense. But yeah, I just enjoy the food. You know, I enjoy those sort of stir fries and stuff, and I guess that's sort of carried over a bit. Where I've done a few cooking videos myself on the channel, only a handful, and like with rabbit, like I'll make like a Hokkien rabbit stir fry. You know, so that's something a little bit sort of similar, I guess. So those sort of things I just enjoy eating.
Perfect. I like it.
Nice.
All right. Next one. What was your first job, Ozzie?
Veterinary assistant.
There you go.
It's taking a turn.
Okay.
What age are we talking? How'd you land that one?
So basically, I was about 15 at the time, and before I was old enough to work, I was working at the vet surgery to actually help out, and because I wanted to become a vet. And so that was what I first was studying to do many years ago now. But yeah, that was the first job, like the first sort of paid job I had. Prior to that, I mean, I worked a lot in my neighborhood. So I'd do things like I'd mow lawns, I'd, tree lopping, doing all that sort of thing, for different neighbors and things like that. And we had, it's about 5,000 acres property, and my cousin runs that to this day. So I used to go and I used to do a fair bit of farm work and things. So it was a bit of an influence that way as well. But the first sort of ridgy-dig paid job was, veterinary assistant.
There you go. It's quite interesting that, well, it's not interesting because we're all hunters, but we all love animals. And obviously you have a love for animals, plus you hunt.
Yeah.
So
yeah, mate. Yeah.
That I think speaks volumes in itself, and that, most hunters actually really love animals.
Yeah.
Care about them. Yeah. Probably
Yeah,
more.
that's right. That's right. Like, I mean, like as I've said numerous times on the channel, like I don't care even if they're a feral pest, like they don't deserve to be tortured. They're just doing what they do naturally. You're going to take the shot, make sure it's ethical. It's pretty simple.
It is.
Yeah.
Are you running cattle full time now?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I've got, I've just sold a fair few. At the moment, I've got 21 head still here, but I'm going to have more on the ground soon. So, yeah, I need to, because I've got basically, three paddocks, as I call them. And, I need to get them on the other paddocks because I'm sick of mowing.
You had a fair bit of rain in the last little while. Well, the last 12 months or so up there, haven't you?
Yeah, it's insane, mate. We've had, at the moment, it's been raining today, just sort of light rain, so it's not too bad. But the problem is, like, obviously where I do my reviews, it's in that gully, and that's why when I've done the videos, like even 2 weeks after it's rained, I'm still walking through absolute slop. It's just crazy, and people don't sort of understand. I had a mate of mine drop over here yesterday. He wanted to sight in a couple of rifles, and before he went sort of way out west. And I said, yeah, by all means, come on out. And I said, look, it's probably still a bit wet, down in that area. And he's like, surely not, And I said, well, you'll see. Sure enough, like, it hadn't rained for, I don't know, about a couple of weeks anyway. And we've had some pretty warm, dry, sunny days. And yep, got up towards the 100-yard part there, and it was just all slosh and and a big red belly black snake sitting there watching us as well. So
Sorry, that cut you out then.
Sorry, I said, and there's a big red belly black snake sitting there watching us as well. So
Gee, not bad.
That's all right. They're not poisonous, are they?
yeah, that's right. They'll just give you a love tap.
That sparks a question for me then. So when you're doing your reviews, is it a matter of trying to do quite a few to sort of make use of the time that you have available, or you still have to space them out just so you're not...
A bit of both, mate. It depends what I'm doing. Like if I'm doing a long distance review, that's an all day thing. Because by the time you do the desktop part, you end up zeroing it there at 100, and then you start going out to see where it is on target at 600, 800, 1,000. Like it's an all day thing, because then between doing the shots on the gong, then you've got to drive down to the gong, spray it, get back, set all the cameras up, stuff like that. And I mean, and and there's also really strange interruptions that have happened. I don't think I've told this story for quite some time, but I had when I was doing the Seiko 85 long range review in 300 Win Mag, like, I'd set up and I was really in a hurry to get everything done before I lose the light of the day. And next minute, I'm not kidding you, like I look up in the air and here's this guy like coming down on a parachute. And I'm just saying, what the hell is going on here? But he said he needed to land somewhere, and I'm just like, and I'm like, they could like obviously hear me shooting, so it wasn't one, there was 30 of them, and they've all landed between where I was shooting, between me and the target, and so obviously I'd stopped shooting, and one of the guys says, "Oh, you should have taken a shot at us, mate," like this. And I just looked him in the eye, like dead serious. I said, "No, we're responsible here with firearms. I don't know what clowns you think you're seeing with a firearm, but that's not us here." So, I'm very particular about that sort of thing, even though he was just having a bit of a joke. But it's not a funny joke. Like, it's just how people like to taint all of us as just, mad gun nuts who'll just shoot up everything and anything we can get a hold of. So anyhow, I had to march them off the property, and they needed somewhere to land from one of the local clubs, and I couldn't believe it at the time, because one guy, like when he lands, he just hops up and just starts peeing, like like he owns the joint, and I'm just like, I'm looking around for like candid camera or something, going, this can't be real, But
meanwhile, you're looking him down a scope.
I'm just, I couldn't believe it. So, there are some sort of funny things when I look back at it now like that hold up reviews. But yeah, to answer your question, mate, like I'll try to get a couple done if I can, but if I can't, depending on the review, it'll get done over the space of a few days. So I might do one today, get everything done and edited and sorted out to where I'm happy with it, and then I'll go, right, okay, I'll get on to the next one, because the big problem with it is it's like a data dump in your head. So I've got all the facts and the figures and specs running through my head. And then, so if you're onto the next product, well, all of a sudden you've got to consume like a sponge all the data and specs on that as well. So you're constantly like inputting data and dumping and on to the next. So I find if I try to do like sort of 4 in a day or something, like it's like a memory overload type thing. And then I find that I'll probably miss some things that I want to talk about. So that's why I like to just space it out. But if I've got a couple of good days of sunshine, then I'll space it out over those couple of days.
Makes good sense to me.
Yeah, it does. That's a fair amount of effort just for some reviews.
I mean, some of the basic reviews we've done are just a few minutes long. The amount of takes and editing and stuff you got to do,
mate.
Oh, it's so time consuming. People don't realize that's the thing. So when you got someone ripping on you on YouTube, you're just like, come on, man. Like, we've put the time in to do this.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
That's right. Yeah, mate. Basically, every free weekend and free time that I've had over the last, 10 years pretty much, I've dedicated to YouTube. Like, I haven't had a holiday in 9 years. So that 9 years is the last time I went away somewhere for a holiday.
Far out. Time for a break.
Yeah, it is. It is time for a break, but that's the problem. I'm a sucker for punishment, like I enjoy doing it and that, but you enjoy doing it, but it's workload.
Yeah.
So,
what's one video or a review that you sort of sticks in your mind of what you've enjoyed the most?
Probably, I don't know. I like the semi-auto reviews naturally when I show them, because it's just something a little bit different. It reminds me of pre-96. There are a handful of reviews of certain products that I've really, really enjoyed. That Ticker A1 TAC is one of them, hands down. I was just on such a high after I filmed that, because it just shot so well. It was just so nice to use, and then you see you'll see uneducated people having a go at ticker. Like, and you're just going, really? Well, if you've actually used one, I mean, like, how many ticker reviews have I done now? And every one of them, like, shoots half an inch at 100 with factory ammo. What more do you want?
Exactly.
So that sort of thing I like. I love my Anschutz rifles in the rimfire, range especially. I've got a soft spot for them. But practical, I like things like the Ruger American and that when I'm out on the farm, because they take the knocks and all that sort of thing. So mate, to answer your question, it would be probably hard to narrow down maybe one or two reviews that are really special, but I think probably the ones that would stand out are the semi-autos, because it just takes so much time to get them as well.
Yeah.
It's not like just putting in for a PTA and going to your gun shop and picking it up. You've got to do, well, depending on how I apply, whether it's as a primary producer on a B709 or as federal pest control on Attorney General's import permits. In the past, I've had both, and it depends on the delays of each one to how much longer that gets added on to importing that firearm, waiting for all the red tape and the paperwork to clear. So by the time, when I finally get it in my hands, it's that extra bit special, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Is there a limit to how many semis you're allowed now?
So under the legislation up here for Cat D, for feral pest control, it's 2. So for me, it's the Ruger SR556 and the Ruger SR762, both which I end up reviewing. For Cat Cs, for feral pest control, there's nothing in the legislation up here. However, the legislation says you can have one rifle, Cat C rifle, one Cat C shotgun, or you can have more if you apply and an authorised officer deems it necessary, taking into consideration the area size. So, for example, I had 4 Cat Cs for feral pest control, and that was because one of the properties I was contracted to was 120,000 acres. So, you're on 120,000 acres. It's reasonable to have a backup. You do a firing pin, something goes wrong, or whatever happens. Well, you can't have a mobile armory with you that can just, fix it and sort it, and you're being paid by that farmer or the landowner to eradicate feral pests. They're not paying you to spend 2 or 3 hours trying to fix something. So, it's reasonable to have those backups for it. But when you're on, like, say, for example, here, like I'm on 300 acres, so, I have one Cat C rifle, one Cat C shotgun.
Yeah. Do you, with the with your contracting, does the rifle that you use for that property, is that like a registered type thing? So, okay, that rifle is registered to that property, your use on that property only?
Kind of. So what they do, and it is written into the legislation up here, for Cat D, it has to be the shire. Okay, so the council shire. So in other words, what you typically do as a contract shooter up here is you try to get as many contracts as you can from different shires. So hypothetically, if I get a contract in, I don't know, let's say like Southern Downs Shire up towards Toowoomba there. If I get a call out to go to any other property and do pest control, well, I don't have to then put in that contract to be authorised to go there because I'm already authorised in that shire. So that's how it works. But with Cat C, there's no requirement for that. So what I used to do was, if I'd get called out to a property, well, I'd go there with Cat C firearms, assess it, have a look at it. And then if it was something that was going to be ongoing, well, then I would get a contract signed up, listing their property, what's there, et cetera, and then you put it into weapons licensing, which is our firearms registry up here. And then, how long's a piece of string? You might get approved in a month. It might be 3 months. Sometimes it's been 6. It's been very frustrating. And meanwhile, you've got a customer who's saying, well, where the hell are you? And you've got to try to explain to them, well, look, because of red tape, I can't actually come out to do that right now. So, it can be frustrating. And at the end of the day, people think that it's sort of all fun and games. Well, it's not, because these farmers or landholders aren't paying you to come out with a bolt action and get a trophy buck or something like that. I mean, I've been on contracts before with deer, and they want every deer dropped. They don't want you harvesting the meat. They don't care. They're like, oh, you harvest that in your own time. We're not paying you for it. So you're going along, bang, 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 just dropping them, and that's where they stay. Which I see as disappointing, because there's a lot of quality meat that goes to waste. But you're there to do a job. It's not recreational.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Is it possible to make a living doing contract shooting these days in Australia?
Yeah, I think it is. You've got to have the right contract to do it. But there is definitely money there, and it's a lot of people just don't know. So, for example, I was at a local nursery there, and anyhow, the woman had brought up that she had a problem with a fox. Or foxes coming past, and they were attacking and killing some of her lambs that she had out the back, and all that. And I said, oh, I do feral pest control. And she's like, oh, can you please come out? How much do you charge? Blah, blah, blah. And it's surprising the amount of people that just don't know that those services are available. And once again, I put that back to the fact that, we're all almost like emotionally bullied into not advertising it. Because it's the whole firearms thing, when it should be, in my view, just like any other business. Why, when you're conducting a complete legal business, should you feel bullied or hampered or, pushed into a corner, unable to promote or advertise your business? It shouldn't be like that.
So it's hard in SA. I can't speak for the other states, but we have this law where if we cause someone fear, so say if we've got our own property, you're shooting on it, okay, it's a nicety to go tell your neighbours and say, look, I'm going to shoot tomorrow, cool. If you've got a big enough property, well, you don't really need to do it. But if someone's on your property and they see you with a firearm and it causes them fear, they can ring the police, and straight away you're in the wrong as a shooter, just immediately here in South Australia. They'll come take the firearms until they've done an investigation and things like that. I don't know if that's up there, but it's understandable not to promote or advertise or anything like that, because it's so hard just to be in trouble for doing the right thing or doing what you're allowed to do.
Yeah.
And it's designed that way, in my view. I mean, like, look, for example, up here, the firearms legislation is very specific, where, only a license holder can be charged with insecure storage of firearm. A criminal can't, because they're not licensed. It's only a license holder that can be. So, so when you see stuff like that, my view on it is that would lead any reasonable person to look at it and just go, is this about getting the criminals, or is it about getting the licensed people?
Yeah.
And that's where I think there's a lot of people that have a big issue with it. And I know when I met with, a couple of years ago, I met with a federal member in regards to this, because all of it had stemmed, federally and was pushed down to the states. And, and that's what I said. I said, I think that I could speak on behalf of most shooters. All we want is fair and reasonable gun laws. Like, we don't want to see firearms, getting in the hands of people who shouldn't have them, be it mentally ill people or children, or criminals. Like, none of us want that. So why not work together? Why not be on the same page? But it's very clear when you start dealing with the different firearm registries that they are not on your side at all, and you are the enemy, and you're treated that way when you contact them. And that's what I've got a real issue with, because my view on it, once again, is for all those years of law-abiding, service to the community, I guess, of being a licensed shooter. Like, you're not out there committing crimes, or, you're not out there committing DVs or anything like that, because you wouldn't have firearms. Wouldn't you, as a government official who's in charge of setting these rules and regulations in place, look at this group of people who, on a whole, are the most law-abiding group of people you've got in your community, and actually pat them on the head and say, look, thanks so much for, your years of being law abiding, and say, okay, well, it's reasonable for, to have firearms of your choice and not be so contradictory, I think is a better term for it, with what we can and can't have. Like, I'll give you an example that really sort of annoys me is, here in Queensland, like, we can't have anything chambered in 50 BMG. It's category R, which is where full auto machine guns are, grenades, all that sort of stuff. So it's like the highest regulated category that usually is only open, obviously, to the government, or a licensed armourer up here can be licensed for category R. So, yeah, you can't have anything chambered in 50 BMG, even if it is just a single shot or even just normal bolt action, whatever. But I go over the border into New South Wales and no problem there. But if you take your ticker A1 tack into New South Wales with a folding stock on it, you might as well kiss your backside goodbye, because you're going to get, thrown to the wolves. So,
insane.
And so when you see things like that, and anyone watching this could say, oh, I'm having a go at the system or whatever. Well, no, I'm not. What I'm doing is just pointing out their rules of what they're saying we can and can't do, and I put it out to anybody else who is watching this. Well, do you think that's fair and reasonable? They're supposed to be uniform gun laws, but the facts are they're far from it.
Yeah.
I would like to know how they watered down from federally to state. Who actually changes that? Because I've heard of police commissioners enforcing a new law, like appearance laws or things like that, or obviously your local political party might in their campaign or whatever. But I'd like to know who actually does that without letting the shooting community have their voice, because it seems to happen just instantly. Suddenly it's a new bit of legislation or law that's on the firearms website, and you don't know anything about it until you read it.
Yeah, 100%. And when what you look at it on the flip side of that, if there is something about easing a regulation, whether that just be something administrative, like no waiting period on a subsequent PTA or something like that, all of a sudden everyone gets a say, from the antis to people like victims of gun violence and all this sort of stuff. But if it's anything to do with restricting a law, these are the facts. They have well and truly gone out of their way to keep major stakeholders from the shooting industry away from any decision-making process. And why personally I think that is I believe it's because of their lack of knowledge. It's like anything, like if you have a car enthusiast, for example, they're going to walk rings around politicians who are trying to bring in new laws and that, because they're just going to go, well, what about X, Y, Z? And the politician's going to be, oh, hang on, I've got to speak to my aide. They've got no idea. Yeah. It's exactly the same in the firearms world. Like the politicians that I've met with, so few of them have any idea whatsoever. And when you point it out in very simplistic terms, the contradictions and everything, they go, oh, well, it's just the system we got. It's working. That's what they say. So they just write it off.
Yeah, it's working for them.
Yeah.
100%.
It's frustrating.
It doesn't work really well for us when you've got those contradictions, like, for example, of what I just pointed out. It's just, it just leaves you shaking your head, just going, well, hang on, I thought the underlying reason for all this was public safety. I mean, personally, if I was a resident in New South Wales, I would probably feel a lot more comfortable with someone having a folding stock than a 50 BMG, if they were to go bad potentially. Like, let's be honest.
I guess that's one thing we're sort of dealing with here in SA at the moment, with the proposal of banning hunting bows.
Yeah.
Hunting with a bow. But yet they say banning hunting with a bow, but maintaining target shooting, but yet all their sort of evidence and theories that back up their sort of proposal is all illegal hunting with target tip arrows.
Mm.
So it's just, I don't know.
Not me.
There's sort of no real sort of forethought with all that.
Yeah, but that's how it goes these days. You see, is that's the nitty gritty. Though, when you scratch the surface, that's what's really happening. But is that what gets promoted when they're trying to get this over the line? No, it's not. It would simply be a horror story about animals, wildlife being shot by reckless people with bows. This is what I'm imagining, and they will get the emotional support from the public, and then that's how they'll ban it. But this is a concern that I've got, is no one scratches the surface, or very few of us scratch the surface and actually have a look at what's being proposed. When when they have, for example, like Canada, with all the bans that they had over there, and they said, we just want to get those assault rifles away. But then when you had a look at the list of what it included, it was every semi-automatic. So this is what I mean. They come out with an emotional catchphrase like, we've got to get rid of assault rifles. Well, there wasn't one assault rifle on the list, because everyone in the shooting world knows an assault rifle is a select fire, full automatic. That had nothing to do with it. But once again, mislead the public to go, oh, assault rifles, how could anyone possibly disagree with taking away assault rifles? It was the same thing pushed here in '96, but what was the reality of what happened? We lost our Ruger 1022s, probably the most loved and most popular semi-automatic rifle that the majority of us all had. And I know myself from going to ranges when I was just a kid, pre-96. Like, mate, you didn't see many AR-15s or anything like that. Predominantly what you saw was SKSs, SKKs, and like 1022s, and then you'd see some semi-auto shotguns. Like, that was predominantly what you would see. So the whole thing of, we've got to get rid of all these, assault rifles and everything like that. But no, that's not right, because the majority of stuff handed in was certainly not an assault rifle. And that's, once again, another thing that I have a very big issue with, is just be honest. Like, if you want to get rid of semi-autos, this is what I say to politicians, like, be honest, just say it. Don't try to manipulate or mislead people with some emotional catchphrase that has nothing to do with what you're actually trying to do.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. Excuse me. I mean, what's frustrating about this proposed bow hunting ban is the MP who's brought it to light and is advocating for it. One of the first things she said is bow hunting's illegal in every state except South Australia and Victoria, which is completely false. It's only Tasmania. So, I mean, it is eternally frustrating, man. So I think that's why we just make sure we're well educated on things and make sure we can counter argue eloquently, but also with a bit of facts behind us as well to counter these ridiculous proposals that come into place. But it's a stressful time, but we've got to do it, unfortunately.
Yep.
Speaking of stress, Ozzie, you haven't had a break in nearly a decade, mate. So this sort of leads to my next question. If you could trade places with anyone in the world, who would that be?
Be the Prime Minister, and I'd start changing gun laws.
Done. You got my vote.
Love it. See,
and it would simply be based on factual evidence, 100%. That's what it would be on common sense and evidence based findings. And that's the thing. Like, I might be very pro-gun, as most people know. However, if someone comes to me and they show me a legitimate argument, backed with facts, I'll accept that, even if it does mean, look, means it's viewed as anti-gun. Well, that's fine, as long as you've got the evidence to prove it. And that's been my argument the whole time, is when I do go and speak to politicians, well, let's have a debate, but let's be factual. So there's give and take on both sides. And I think that, there needs to be a lot more improvement, in my view, with all that. I mean, this is not firearms. This is every law, like, there just needs to be the facts and the way that it will be interpreted and used on the actual ground, not just in an office somewhere where they go, oh, this looks really good, and this is, what I've referred to over the years as feel-good legislation. it makes everyone feel good, but when you actually scratch the surface and look at it in reality, it's far, far from that, in my view.
Yep.
I like that answer, because we pose this question to everyone, and a lot of people go, "Oh no, I love my life. I'd never trade places." Or, "Oh, well," so I say, "Oh, give us an answer." Well, if you could just experience someone's life for a week, where you could change something or whatever. Oh, there'll be a billionaire. Spend that money or buy a heap of stuff, whatever. But I think you're the first person to actually say, "I'm going to be the PM. I'm going to change some stuff."
Change things.
So, kudos to you, man. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Or run them all, vote for you.
Yeah. They say that politics is pretty dirty, and you've got to be dishonest to be successful. So I don't know how well I'd go.
Yeah.
Or it could be a refreshing change to have an honest person in politics.
Yeah, or someone who just lives up to what they promise on their election promises would be a great start. I'd like to see that.
Hello, there's a novel idea.
That's right. Actually be accountable for the promises that you make that get you elected. So.
But in the fine print, it says maybe. So
yeah, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Hey, Ozzie, what's the most dangerous thing you've ever done?
On a more humorous side, I've dated a couple of bad women in my life.
I think you've all
I think that could be pretty dangerous if you haven't got your ducks lined up in a row. That could be real dangerous for you. But yeah, mate, all jokes aside, I think probably when I was younger, like backpacking around and stuff like that, probably being a bit naive and going into a few sort of dodgy areas and things that I wasn't too sure. Like I remember I was in Florida, in Miami at the time, and when I flew in, I ended up just hiring this Chevy and thought, oh well, just do what most people do, just get in and just start driving, And anyhow, I kept driving, and I thought, oh, I better pull into a servo or gas station, as they call it, and just ask for some directions. And anyhow, I pulled in, and the guy behind the glass couldn't even speak English. He was, obviously Latina, so Spanish or some other, perhaps Portuguese language he spoke. I don't know, but he was no, he didn't understand. And anyhow, there was some gangbangers out in the car park. And I remember coming out, and they'd come up to me and they'd surround me like, "You got money?" This sort of thing. And then I was just, hey, I'm just a traveler. I got nothing on me and stuff like that. And they end up cutting me a bit of a break, and just that sort of thing. So I probably couldn't pinpoint it to one thing being dangerous, but that kind of thing when I was younger, traveling around the world a lot. And not really having a good understanding and that situational awareness of where you should and shouldn't go. Probably, if I could do things again, I'd probably do a little bit differently in that regard.
Did they recognise that you're Australian, or they just didn't care?
Mate, they sort of, they were a little bit better then. I just said, I'm Australian. I'll just, come over for a bit of a look around. And, and Australians are fairly popular in the States in general, I find. So, it's okay. And then they've sort of changed their attitude. I mean, look, I remember, it just come to my mind now, like when I was in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden there, I remember years ago, girl I was with she was coloured. So she wasn't classed as black. She wasn't classed as white. She was coloured. So she was South African. And anyhow, I remember we went into McDonald's in Stockholm, and anyhow, I turned around and some neo-Nazis had surrounded her and were pushing her around and all that sort of thing. Anyhow, so I'd run up and sort of intervened and pulled the whole we're just Australian and everything, and they started to change their tune because there was a big problem over there. There is a lot of problems in Europe with obviously far left and far right groups. And as I say to a lot of people, I don't really care if people are left or they're right in their views or whatever, but it's whenever you get to the extreme on either sides, that's when people use violence to promote their beliefs, which I'm strictly against, because it's not going to get the message through. So I got to see that sort of thing too, and yeah, that was pretty dangerous. I was pretty worried then. I thought we're going to end up in an ambulance here, probably in hospital, but thankfully we were able to get talk our way out of it and play sort of the innocent tourist, so to speak.
Far out.
How many times do you use that excuse for?
Yeah, a handful.
Doesn't work out, it works. Just keep rolling with it.
Yeah,
What's not broken?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So,
Awesome. All right. Well, next question, Ozzie. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
stop basically wasting your money on going out and put it into bricks and mortar. So yeah, there was an old friend of mine that said that to me. My old man very much was the same when I was younger, saying that. So I sort of heard it from a couple of people that were close to me, and yeah, it was the best thing I ever did. I was what was I 22 when I owned my first home.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, yeah, a lot of people that age are still, like you said, like going out partying and spending their money and not realizing they've got to invest in their future. So they're all bricks and mortar.
Yeah, yeah.
On alcohol. Yeah.
Just alone.
Yeah. We've all been there, and and that's the thing. Like by all means, it's great socializing and going out and things like that, but you've got to square away your private life. That's my view on it. So yeah, even when I was young, a lot of friends and everything were just wasting their money, had no savings, were just paying rent. And I thought, yeah, no, why would I pay rent when I can get into my own home and do it that way? And I did. So I had my own home at 22. Built my second home by the time I was 25, 26. So yeah, I was pretty motivated. Well, I still am, I guess, but I was pretty motivated when I was younger to achieve and get things done.
Yeah, bloody hell. I kind of almost feel sorry for the next generation coming through, because the prices of houses.
Oh, they're just at the moment.
Yeah,
ludicrous.
they are. Yeah, mate, they are. I caught up with a nephew of mine. He's only 22, and he and his partner are living in this. Honestly, it looks like a one-bedroom hotel room. That's honestly what it looks like. Neat and tidy, modern, all that sort of thing. But he's paying, I think he said $650 or $600 a week for it. And I'm just like, this is just such dead money. It's a nice place to live and everything like that. But, even if you're splitting it with your partner, before you do anything, you've got to say, oh, well, there's $300 out of my wage, your wage for the week, before we even look at any other expense, I see it as a big problem, like you say. Like I do worry about that next generation, because, you see them now, they don't have a hope in hell, because what they're going to do is they're going to be a slave to the mortgage. Because they'll never pay it off. Like if you're getting a mortgage of say $700,000, like seriously, how are you ever going to pay that off?
And that's before the economy crashes, interest rate goes through the roof.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this happened. I mean, this crash that I believe is very imminent. And why I believe it is because, in 2007, it happened virtually exactly the same. Every month we had, interest rates going up. At the time, I mean, I was spewing, because I had a property that I had sold. Well, it was under contract. Then the crash happened. Then they couldn't get finance. So then it just sat there, and then no one had any work or anything like that. It was terrible. So, I know only too well what it's like to go through that, and I can see that happening now. And I mean, I don't know about what it's like on the news down there, but on the news up here, they're finally starting to talk about it and say, well, yeah, there's a crash coming. Buyers are getting cold feet, because a lot of them are being priced out of the market now with all the interest rate increases. So, it's going to have very much a big flow-on effect. And that's where I think, bringing it back to the shooting world, I think honestly that's where a lot of people are going to want to be back to basics. So if you're a hunter, for example, you're going to go out and you're going to get yourself some venison. So even if you're living off that for a couple of months, whatever like that, to actually put more money on the table for other things in hard times. And I think that's something that has really escaped a lot of people here in Australia since the times of our parents and grandparents, in those Great Depression years, and even the subsequent years after that, like post-war and everything, when times were still pretty tough. I don't think a lot of people of this generation now, I mean, they've certainly not even experienced what it's like to go without, because they have this real big sense of entitlement. They're entitled to their iPhone, they're entitled to takeaway, they're entitled to watching TV. All those sort of things were a privilege when I was a kid. Apart from the iPhone, that wasn't around naturally, but it's just that sort of mentality I very strongly disagree with, and I think that it's going to bite a lot of the younger generation in the backside, because once that's taken away from them, it doesn't matter how much they want to put a tantrum on, no one's going to give you that stuff. So especially like you have a look over, and like obviously with what's happening in Europe with Ukraine, Russia, I'm sure there's a lot of people there that are going without. And that's where my thought on it is people need to have some skills. So skills to be able to go out, hunt, butcher your own food, be sensible, have some stocks put away. Like, I mean, most of the farming areas here, all the property owners, they'll have like a month or 2 months worth of food supply, whether it be meat in the freezer, like the deep freeze, and they'll have some, canned veggies and all that sort of thing. And I'm not suggesting someone needs to be a 2-year worth, or have 2 years worth of supply like some sort of crazy doomsday prepper, but be realistic. And there's nothing crazy about having 1 or 2 months supply of things, so that, if times do hit and they're pretty hard, well, you're not going to go without.
That's interesting you bring that up, actually, because one of our listeners was having a bit of a chat to us today, and he was sort of suggesting, well, just keep an eye on these things, because we were talking about the proposed bow hunting ban, but on the wider side of things, it was actually more what he was suggesting is, without being, tinfoil hat and conspiracy theory about it, is that governments actually don't want people to possess the skills to be able to get their own food. They want us to be reliant on them. And
that's right.
That's actually a fair point, mate. Well, I agree with him.
Because it validates their existence, man, if we rely on them. If we don't, well, what use are they?
Well, they love, as I say it, the government loves you being on their bosom. So, whether that's through welfare or whatever it is, because I mean, let's be honest. I mean, this is well documented that various, especially socialist governments, rely on the welfare voting population to get power. I mean, it certainly happens here. I mean, you go to a lot of low socioeconomic areas here in Queensland, they're Labor through and through. Like, you will not get them to change. And why? Because they're the ones who give them the free handouts, and it makes their particular situation and lifestyle easy. That's why they're in power. Yet if someone wants to get in there and make people work and all that sort of stuff, well, they'll be basically run out of that electorate. They won't get anywhere. So, they're the facts.
No, that's true. It's true. It's an interesting discussion point, to be honest, but it's unfortunate we're on this revolving Labor, Liberal, and people get fed up with one and we change to the next. And
everyone has a 4-year memory. It's like no one remembers the last government in and how
Not even
good
that
or bad
some
they
years.
were or whatever. Yeah.
Not even that.
No.
I remember one night I was just I pulled into a noodle takeaway place, and it was funny at the time there was an election on, and the owner had come out and he was talking to me, and I think he was Chinese. His background, his accent was very much sort of Chinese English, and and he'd been here for just a couple of years, and even he was saying to me, because we got talking about the election, I said, it's going to be soon, and he goes, oh, who do you vote for? Like he had that real strong accent, and I said, oh, I'll probably, at that time, I said, oh, I don't think it'll be Labor. I said, I won't be going that way, and he was like, oh, Labor, no good. This is what he said, you know. He goes, "No good. Spend everything, spend." And then LMP comes, save, and then Labor comes, spend. You know, like, and mate, and here, you know, this guy here, he was a working immigrant that had only been here a couple of years, and he's telling me that.
Yeah.
So,
It
you know,
worked out
so,
pretty quick.
yeah, apologise to any people of Chinese background who are watching this. I do a terrible accent, obviously, but yeah.
Right.
but that is exactly how he said it to me, and I was just like, yeah, mate, I agree with you, definitely.
100%. All right, Ozzie, what is your most treasured possession?
Does it have to be something that's like, you know, can it be something that's alive?
Sure.
If you possess
My
it.
dog.
The Staffy.
Yeah, my dog. I'd say because he's walking around here, he's wandering around, because as soon as it becomes nightfall here, he's like under my feet because he wants to go out and get rabbits. Like, he just loves them, you know. So, and we're out at the moment. I cooked the last one up for him yesterday, but yeah, so he's sort of around my feet. But mate, he's everything to me. You know, like same as my last American Staffy I had. You know, he was everything to me as well. This one, Hank, he's no different. He's a great dog, very well balanced dog, and you know, and he very much breaks down the stigma of the whole pit bull. You know, people are just like, God, he's so loving and friendly and that, and it's like, yeah, that's because I don't kick the crap out of him and torture him and try to, you know, make him fight other dogs and things like that. Like, I mean, it's just such common sense. But anyhow, that's sort of going off on another tangent. But yeah, but if it wasn't a living thing, if it was something, you know, non-living possession, I'd probably say my Benelli M4.
You can't treasure that too.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's just something about that. You know, it's yeah, it's just an awesome shotgun. It's unlike any shotgun I've ever used. Like I mean, you know, I fire solid through that thing accurately out there at 100 with it, and you know, just with a red dot on it, and the recoil feels like it's a 243. Like, it's unreal. The technology and everything that Benelli put into that in '99 when they went for the Marine Corps contract, and that's why they made the shotgun. It's just fantastic. You know. And even when I did the recent Sulan Arms review, you know, which is a M4 straight pull copy.
I was going to ask you about
Yes,
that.
yes, it's very similar. I agree, it is very similar. But when you've got it up to the shoulder, and you know, I'm not talking about you know, shooting, because obviously one's semi-auto, one's not. But just in general, it's kind of like, how can I put this? The Sulan to me is like, you know, having maybe a Ford Falcon up to your shoulder. You know, yep, it does the job, and you know, everything is good on it. There's no issues. But then you get the Benelli, and then you've got the Ferrari up to the shoulder. And it's just these little things. You look at the finish, like, you know, just from where you know, just from where the trigger guard meets the pistol grip and stuff. Everything's just finer finished on the Benelli. There's more tolerance, like tighter tolerance on it. You can just see why you pay the money for it.
Yep.
Makes sense. Well, that answers another question I was going to ask later on.
Yeah, Caleb's in the market for a shotgun, or was in the market for a shotgun.
You give it up.
No, I've switched focus to 223 at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. Not too great with a shotgun, so probably a good choice.
Yeah, I don't get out and practice as much as these boys.
Out of the straight pulls, which would be your preferred system?
What, as in which is my preferred straight pull shotgun you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably that Sulan has taken the cake so far. Only because it's got the feel and I guess the sturdiness of the real thing. Like a lot of the straight pulls, you know, you pick them up and they're just so lightweight. You know, you just look at it and go, oh, geez, can I actually fire 12 gauge through this? You know, because you do, it feels like almost like a toy in your hand. It's so lightweight. But obviously, you know, they work and they've been tested and everything. But that Sulan, when you pick it up, it has the real weight and everything of the Benelli. So you've just got that higher heavier grade steel in it. It just, you can just feel it straight away. So for me, like firing 12 gauge and that, I'd much prefer that than, you know, something that's just that real lightweight feel to it. Yeah, I definitely prefer the straight pull over the levers. I mean, I'm not a fan of lever action rifles or shotguns in particular. So yeah, for me, the straight pull just makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I prefer the straight pulls over a lever, to be honest. But I think the cheapness of the Adler, that stamped sheet metal feel, you know, they are the ones that I've used are reliable, I have to admit, for the Adler. But I mean, I haven't branched out into as many variety as yourself.
They do feel pretty agricultural, though.
Yeah,
you got to sort of treat them mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I did like the Adler, the lever action review. I remember saying like my knuckles were killing me from that lever. Like, geez, it was rough. And I know people say that after time it smooths out, but you know, I'd fired quite a few shells through that day, and it was not easing up on me at that stage. But then when I did the straight pull Adler review, I mean, I know it was so cheap. I think they were $479, somewhere around that at the time of doing that review. But you know, it was just so much smoother and nicer. And you know, I was like, wow, well, you know, for the price, just to be able to get into a shotgun, I can't really fault it. It hasn't failed me. So yeah, it is what it is.
That reminds me of a hunt we went on probably about a year ago, and a mate brought his lever action Adler out. I'm pretty sure it's Adler. And yeah, I used that a few times and just felt it in my knuckles. I'm like, keep using this, it's going to away skin. So getting the cord and just wrapping it.
Yeah, well, that was everyone who bought one. The first thing they did was wrap it in paracord.
I don't know. They could have handled it off a little easier, a little better.
I mean, make slick kits for them, which is supposed to, you know, make it a little less harsh on the hands. But I haven't used one with a slick kit personally. Yeah,
you don't need it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll keep moving. Ozzie, what's your favourite movie?
Open Range, Kevin Costner, Robert Duvall.
I think I've seen it.
Yeah.
When are we talking there? 90s or what?
No, 2000s.
Okay.
So basically, in it, it's set back in Western times. You know, but sort of do the long story short. So Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall, like they're basically free grazers. So they've got their cattle and they're free grazing over land and everything. They come into a little town, and the little town's pretty corrupt. The sheriff's run by one of the blokes who owns most of the land around town and everything. And anyhow, they start basically, they've got a couple of ranch hands and they start messing them up. And but what they don't realise is that Kevin Costner's character in it is, you know, ex-army, been through the Civil War there, and basically what he was hired to do back then was basically be like an assassin for the government, going around. And he said and he's telling Robert Duvall's character about it at the time, and he says that you know, pretty much we just go around and we would just terrorize the enemy, but it wasn't long before, you know, basically they were just killing everyone, you know, even like women, children, everything, you know, like it was pretty full on. So he had, in the movie, you can see he's got a lot of bad memories with it all. And then these local guys in this town decide with this big boss to rough him up and rough some of the ones up. And yeah, I tell you what, like, yeah, in part of the movie, like, yeah, I won't spoil the whole movie. But one of the blokes who had roughed up and actually killed one of Robert Duvall's ranch hands, Kevin Costner walks up to his character because he's surrounded by other guys, and he says to him, "You're the one who shot. So you're the one who shot our friend," something like that. Words like that, he said. And he goes, "That's right. I shot the boy too, and I enjoyed it." Kevin Costner pulls out his pistol, goes bang, just shoots him straight between the eyes in front of all these other people. And this massive shootout goes on, and you know, it's an action-packed, you know, film. But what I really like about that film is the principles in it. Now, I'm not talking about shooting people between the eyes naturally, but it's there's a lot of principles in it. And and they talk about like Robert Duvall's character and Kevin Costner's character talk about, being a man and, and a man is only as good as his word and things like to that effect, what they talk about through the film. I just like it, eh? So if you haven't seen it, watch it and yeah, let me know what you think.
Sounds good.
I'll have to give it a
good.
go.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely not one I've come across. So get on it.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Next question. Recommend a guest for this podcast.
I don't know. I'd probably say, and in the current climate with what you're doing with the bow hunting proposals down there, is probably be, I would say, Graham Park from the Shooters Union, the president. He'd be probably a good one to talk to you. He's used to doing a lot of interviews and things like that, and he's pretty much got his finger on the pulse with what's going on. Even in the other states as well.
Good one. That's a solid recommendation, I reckon. Cool. Well, Josh is feverishly writing that down. All right.
Otherwise, we'll all forget it.
Question 10, Ozzie. What was your first rifle?
So air rifle when I was, really young, about 5, 6. But then I soon graduated to obviously one of my favorites, the Ruger 1022. So that was the first, I guess, rifle as far as, using powder and not air. And then when I was 11, my parents bought me an SKS and 1,200 rounds of ammo for my 11th birthday.
Oh,
So,
Birthday.
happy day.
And that was going up.
so yeah, and it was a funny thing because my old man said to me back then, he said, if you ever do anything wrong with this rifle, you'll never see it again. And I knew that accompanied being flogged. So you did as you were told as a kid, and I soon learnt the right and the wrong way. And if you did the right thing, all of a sudden you were given a lot of privileges and freedom. So it's like, well, which way would you go? Do the wrong thing and end up feeling it on your backside and not getting anything, or do the right thing and actually be given all freedom and stuff like that. Well, yeah, do the right thing. So, so I had that, and I made, even with that, when I was on the farm and stuff, I made sure I had a proper backstop. And because I was conservative with ammo, because I knew that I really couldn't afford to buy it. I mean, back then it was $2.50 for a box of 20 Norinco, 7.62 by 39 FMJs. And, but even then, like, I had to work and be able to buy ammo. So, I'd make sure I'd have my backstop there. And I actually tried to shoot for accuracy. I wouldn't just get there and bang, 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 that sort of thing. I really enjoyed that as well. Then the SLR as well. So, most people will be like, oh, a kid with a SKS or an SLR. Well, no, because I had common sense and respect for my elders and people around me. And the furthest thing from my mind was doing harm to any person with that rifle. But I can assure you, when, your local mates on the weekend are getting together for a shoot, the few tin cans and, they've got their break action, air rifle, and you rock up with an SKS. It's sort of, it's an uneven playing field.
I think you put a few mates in the shade.
I remember, speaking of talking about like how kids are different these days, I remember one of my neighbors, he was an old fella, and I mentioned I was a shooter. Yeah. And he was sort of having a good chat about it to me. And he's like, I remember ages ago, I think it was 80s or something like that, 70s. And he just saw this kid walking down with a 22 or just a rifle of some sort. He wasn't sure. So he paid him to shoot the birds in his trees. So just how sort of receptive, I guess, the public were. He didn't know the guy. He didn't know the kid. He didn't know him. But it was just sort of mature sort of transaction between the two. And just that wouldn't happen these days if you had.
Hell no.
The culture changed like huge after 96.
Yeah.
Like, everything just changed, probably for the worse.
Knowledge,
I mean, You got all that knowledge gone, as you said. You've got a fear now that's been installed into the public over a terrible incident, yes, but nonetheless, it was pure fear mongering. I don't think we'll ever get back to that point.
Well, when this is the thing though, when you had the newspaper, getting the pictures there of Martin Bryan and editing his eyes so they were widened and looking like a crazy man and things like that. I mean, and it's the same when you look at like Adam Lanza and other mass shooters around the world. They always get a picture, and I'm sure there's some bit of photoshopping in it to get them in a terrible pose, like an evil pose, where they just look like a crazy person. So to someone who's on the fence there, well, what does that portray at home?
Yeah.
Well, that's gun owners. And that complete different light of how it really is. I had at one stage a partner who was fairly anti-gun, and that was through obviously negativity that she'd seen, and I invited her to come out to a pistol shoot I was doing at the range one night. So went out there, and and her whole, I guess, outlook had changed, because I remember she paid particular attention to there was two elderly women there. They would have been they would have been probably late 60s, 70, even, and they fired no more than probably maybe 1-2 mags the whole night, so 10-20 rounds. But it was just that social outing for both of those ladies. They weren't there threatening anyone with a handgun or anything like that. And they were talking about, oh, so how's your daughter and your grandkids? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Just the normal stuff that people talk about. It was just a social outing. And this is the sort of thing, once again, that I really, really dislike, is when people start headhunting us to try to taint us with the same brush. I mean, like, for example, like if you had, I don't know, let's say, for example, people got a brush and tainted Chinese people, say, oh, well, they're all drug dealers, for example, or, they deal in heroin or whatever. Like you would be absolutely, hounded from, from where you live and outcast. And it doesn't matter what it is. You can take any different group, and you can try to taint them with this, with a particular brush, and it's not acceptable. Where the problem lies with all this, and I've gone down this with the whole discrimination path, is under the Anti-Discrimination Act, is you don't have, you've got, race, religion, and you've got prerequisites for what you can't discriminate against. Shooters aren't in there. Okay, there's no area where you could say, oh, that is applicable to shooters, because we're not there's no prerequisite in there for shooters as a recognized group of people. So that's where they can get away with just, tainting us with whatever brush. So where it would have to change, in my view, would be something along the lines of, to say you can't discriminate against a person because of their interest or their sport, or something along the lines of that. And then you could, introduce that into that legislation so that it would be applicable for us to be able to fight back on anti-discrimination grounds. So yeah, it's a very interesting one. And I know that there's people that have said, oh, well, why don't we start our own religion and things like that. I do know of a couple that have tried to do that. And yeah, they've just got nowhere, because you can't just start up a religious group and say, hey, all of us have got to carry AR-15s. Praise the Lord, pass me some ammo. It doesn't work that way.
It is 2022 though. We could all just identify as shooters. Then discriminate against us. No,
that wouldn't be accepted either.
No, just create shooter as a gender.
Yeah, exactly. It's your pronoun. Sorry, I had to say it.
It's a fair point. It's frustrating. At the end of the day, the whole thing is just very frustrating.
You touched on before, Martin Bryan. What's your take on that? Like, there's obviously conspiracies There's been no inquest into it because they don't want to upset the families and the people that have lost people during it. But it seems from the reports and things like this that there is a little bit of something else going on there. Like, is that, do you have an opinion about that? Because obviously it's, it certainly affected your life, that incident leading into the buyback.
Yeah, definitely. My I guess frustration with the whole thing is, why not put the conspiracy theories to rest? So in other words, if there are these conspiracy theories around, like for example, one of the things that I've heard about is, well, it's you can't take a guilty plea from someone who's mentally retarded, which he was deemed as mentally retarded in the eyes of the law. So that was one thing that I've heard raised. So if that's the case, well, why doesn't someone say, well, no, under Tasmanian law, this is what happened? You know what I mean? Just put it to bed, so then it doesn't fester and grow and grow. But and I've heard other things like, the rifle that he had, well, a couple of the rifles he had, somehow the breeches were blown up in the fire. That's other things I've heard, and I'm thinking, well, I know firearms fairly well, and let's look at it this way: like when you pull the trigger and a round goes off, that chamber there, even though momentarily, is as hot as the surface of the sun. So how is a breach or anything like that just going to suddenly blow up in a fire? Things like that. So that's other stories I've heard. So once again, why doesn't someone be quite open with it in that position where they go, okay, these are the firearms recovered. You can see here the damage it sustained or whatever. So this is where I'm going with it. Like, I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but I don't believe they've done themselves any favors by not negativing or like the conspiracies. Like, why wouldn't you, if there's all these conspiracies getting around, just be very open, accountable, and honest, and go, okay, this is the reason for this or that, and then it just puts it to bed forever. And then you'll still have your hardcore conspiracy theorists that will still go down that track no matter what evidence is presented to them. I mean, COVID, we've seen that with people as well. So I look at it in that way. Like, if it was up to me, I would say, okay, let's hear all the allegations that you've got, and let's put it to bed now, and I'll explain why each one of those are the way they are. But so that's all I can say. Like, I mean, I wasn't there. I've heard obviously numerous theories about it, but just things like that, I would like answers for. I mean, if that's the case, if how do they accept a plea of guilt from a person without running a trial? If that is what happened, like I said, I don't know. I wasn't there. And they seem to have, from my understanding, they've put like a what do you call it, a silence on it where people can't access a lot of the information under freedom of information.
Yeah, they got down for another 50 years, I think.
Somewhere along the lines of that is what I'd heard. But once again, is that just a conspiracy theory, or is that true? I don't know. But once again, I'd just like to see that sort of accountability with it. I mean, pretty much every mass shooter in the world that you see, like look at Anders Breivik in Norway. Well, what happened there? There was an open court. Like, it was open and accountable. They were filming, they were doing all that sort of thing. People got to hear evidence. The victims of families got to hear it, that sort of thing. But, and then there's other allegations here in Australia that the victims of some of the families wanted to hear the evidence. They wanted to see the evidence and everything, and they wrote, repetitively to the Attorney General at the time, but they were refused. Well, if that is true, once again, it's only things I've heard. If it is true, well, once again, why isn't that explained? Why is there not an explanation for that? And if it is true that they've put a silence on things, well, can you blame people for then running down the conspiracy path line. When I believe my view on it is a lot of that can be put to bed if they'd just be very open and accountable with everything that took place, just like any other shooter that we've had.
Yeah.
It almost breeds that conspiracy, as you said, because they're not transparent. Yeah.
With I'm not sure how old you were at the time, but I was only 8 and I can't really remember much of the change that happened. Obviously, what I know now is what I've read up on and sort of seen as I got older. But your memories of the change, like with just the general population and their attitudes towards that sort of incident, or not incident itself, but the law changes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, I was a young adult at the time. So I had my own, I had my own license. So here in Queensland, it was just a credit card license, no photo on it. And there was no expiry date, and you could just go in and buy a semi-auto. It was just straight out the door with it because you'd already passed that check there to get that license. Excuse me. And that licensing system was working quite well. We had it since 1990. That's when the Weapons Act came out here in Queensland. So 6 years prior to Port Arthur, we had that already in place. We didn't have permit to acquires, but my view on them is that's just doubling up. There's no need for them. If you've already passed the check there to have a license in the first place, why do you then need to say, Mother, may I, to the government to be able to get something that you're already licensed for? That's like giving someone a car license, in my view, and saying, oh, before you get a car, you've got to say, Mother, may I, to the government before we approve you. To me, it's just doubling up. So I guess, getting back to it, how it was changed. I remember people of like my parents' era back then. There's no, I guess, secret about it. PVC sold off the shelves. People were burying firearms, and a lot of them. Those firearms would still be out there to this very day. There was a group of people who agreed with the new licensing. Then there was a group of people who didn't agree with it but followed it, me being one of them. Then you had the other side of it of people who just did not get a new license and they buried what they had. But once again, doing that, I look at it and go, well, okay, well, how are you going to go for ammo and everything? Because you've got to go into a dealer to be able to show a license and everything like that. So they sort of, my view on that is they were doomed by taking that option. If it was up to me, what I would have done back then, because there was a lot of public pressure and opinion on it, is simply have the licensing system. But why is there a need to then ban semi-automatics? Why not have, like, if you turned around and said at that time, okay, we've got this new licensing system in, I'm putting this to you guys to say I was the Prime Minister back then, and I said to you as shooters, okay, we've had this incident. It's a terrible incident. We have a lot of pressure to do something about it. I don't want to take your firearms off you, but to stop people who are, mentally ill or criminals or a danger to themselves or others, I'm going to bring in this licensing system which requires more extensive background checks. However, feel free to register your Cat Ds. You're free to have them and keep them. Well, if that was said back then, I'm pretty confident, once again, speaking for majority of shooters, I'm pretty confident you'd probably have 9 out of 10 shooters agree and go, you know what, fair enough, you're being accountable. I can see what you're doing and how you've got to appease different groups and the families who have been through that tragedy. But you're also looking after my rights as a citizen in this country. And I don't mean a right to bear arms, because as we know, that's American, but our right as a citizen to apply for a firearm license and to use firearms. We have that right here. Anyone can apply to do it. Whether you get approved or not is a different thing. So, yeah, but you still have the right to do it.
We still see a lot of gun crime in Australia, and post COVID, that's increased with the whole feud between the Alameddine family and the other Middle Eastern family and things like that. And there's been quite a number of shootings inside the whole criminal underworld. Do you think that having this law change in '96 has that actually benefit us as a country in any way? When you also think about they've changed the definition of mass shootings from 4 to 2 as well. So you've got this law being implemented. We're still having technically now mass shootings.
But that number has continued to drop still, even though they've lowered the number.
Well, that's what I want to ask is do you think it's actually helped?
So I did a video on this. If you haven't seen it, it was on the NFA, the failure of the NFA, and I go right through it and I go right into the statistics of it. And so it's not my opinions or views or anything. It's simply presenting the facts, and the facts are clearly there. When you look at the homicide rate with firearms, it was coming down at the same average decline from like 1980 to 96 is what it is from 96 to now. There is no difference. The one key thing that the anti-gun groups mislead people with, and I've seen them do this continuously, is they'll claim and they'll say that gun deaths after 96 dropped by, and they'll throw out a figure like 70%, 60% or something around the figure like that. But when once again scratch the surface, what they're including in that gun death is suicide. So yes, and being very open and fair, yes, the suicide rate with a firearm did drop by a dramatic amount after 96. However, suicides in general didn't drop. So what does that prove? All it proves is someone's going, okay, I'm feeling depressed, I want to kill myself. Okay, I can't just go in and get a gun from Kmart, but I'll use another method. So what were the other methods that increased? Hanging, for example, overdosing on pills. And we see that continual increase to this day. So my argument with that was, well, what did your laws really do? Okay, you can beat your chest and say, oh, well, we've reduced gun deaths, and we've done so well. Well, no, you haven't. Is it about the life of a person, or are you just focused on the method they're using to kill themselves? And that's all that they were clearly parading around, was they didn't care that obviously people were still dying. It was just like, oh, you're just not dying from a firearm, so that's a good thing. Our laws work. Well, I'm sorry, I disagree. That's my view on it. So, I completely disagree with it, and that's what I've found when I've had a look at the stats. And this isn't stats off like the NRA website or anything like that. This is the Australian Bureau of Statistics. It's clearly there. Go have a look. And one of the things I found absolutely amazing was the such little percent of gun homicide and death was due to a semi-automatic firearm. They're all bolt actions. The majority were all bolt actions. So, but they looked at it and go, oh, Port Arthur, we've got to take the semi-autos. It's like, hang on here. Let's just hang on a minute here. Are you really concerned overall? Because my view on it is if they were really concerned about it overall, they would have banned bolt actions as the primary thing that they would have tried to ban. Because there was very, very few people, like I said, that actually had, ARs and stuff like that back pre-96, because they were expensive. Yeah. They were really expensive. And so, most people would just go for the SKS, which you could, like I say, get for, $250, $300, and buy that cheap ammunition. So, it represented a very, very small amount having those firearms like AR-15s, SLRs and stuff like that. So once again, it was just, to me, it's just smoke and mirrors. The emotional catchphrase of, gun deaths have dropped by 70% or whatever percent they want to say. What's that do to the person who sits on the fence, who's just mum and dad sitting at home? Oh, geez, I'm so glad they did something about the gun laws here in Australia. That's the general response. But then if you break it down to them and actually show them what is represented there on the Australian Bureau of Statistics, they just go, oh, well, that hasn't really made much of a difference. No, it hasn't in that regard, because people are still dying. To me, it's more about the person's life that's important to how they do it. How they do it is completely irrelevant.
Yep. So I think one of the most important points you've raised, Ozzie, is you just got to scratch beneath the surface. You can't take everything on face value. It is just so critical, especially in today's age of the media. It's just fear mongering and lies. Basically, you really have to do your own research. But I think governments and the media are kind of relying on people just being too lazy to do that.
Yeah, well, mate, I give you a good example. This is sort of changing it off the topic of firearms, but I remember I was at home and I just on this day, it was a rarity, but I caught like the midday news. And down in South Australia, there was this attack, this dog attack. A dog had attacked a child, teenager, or something along the lines of that. Anyhow, I saw the footage, and it was a Labrador cross, something else. It was just a bit of a bitzer. Anyhow, they had it on the on the pole with the cord and everything, and walking it towards the council vehicle. And I remember saying at the time, to my partner at the time, I said, I bet you on tonight's news they say it's a pit bull attack. Sure enough, and what did they do on the 6 o'clock news? Pit bull attack, and then they took a stock photo from the US of, it's not even a pit bull, it's a fairly well-known American bulldog there, and they've cropped the ears and everything, and it's been on the roids and everything, and it's got its big chain on and everything, and that's what they put up on the 6 o'clock news: pit bull attack in South Australia. And and I'm thinking, that is just straight out, that is just fraud. In my view, that's absolute just fraudulent. So they do that sort of thing, and what does that do? It gets that emotion going in people, and they're like, yeah, ban pit bulls, get rid of them, when the reality is it had nothing to do with the pit bull. And what about the thousands and thousands of people who have those dogs and in a loving family environment, but they just want to take them away because of emotional catchphrase? And I ran a very similar experiment when I had my previous AM staff, Cooper. He was only at the time about sort of, 10, 12 weeks old. And I went into a vet supply place to pick up some things for him. And I had him with me. I just had him in my arm, because he was just so small at the time. And there was a older couple in front of me, and the woman turns around and she's like, oh my God, what a lovely puppy. And she's patting him. She goes, oh, what breed is he? And I thought, I'll run a test here. And I said, oh, American Pit Bull Terrier. And she went, oh, and pulled her hand away. And she goes, why would you want a dog that's going to kill people like this? And I just looked at her and I just shook my head, and I thought, there's the perfect example. But, whether it's firearms or whether it's animals or what it is, I honestly would like to ask these people who, soak up all this media, emotional catchphrase propaganda, and just say, how do you look yourself in the mirror every day? Aren't you embarrassed to just know that you're one of those mindless saps who just gets fed everything? And believes it like it's gospel? Are you that mindless that you wouldn't want to actually just do a little bit of digging yourself to see the truth? And I think that's what, unfortunately, the media rely on, is that everybody typically is extremely lazy, and they're quite happy just to believe the headlines of what comes across on the television, and they couldn't, give two hoots about digging any deeper and actually looking at what really went on.
It's funny how these days information is so accessible, but back in the day, information wasn't as accessible, but people were more well-versed in the things that they were around. Well, it seemed like, anyway. I didn't live back then, but yeah. It seemed like people took a lot more attention to detail with the situations they were involved in, or the topics they were sort of, I guess, spreading, I guess. Yeah.
I think now it's just that information overload. Like you say, there's so much of it around. So a lot of people will just go, oh, yeah, okay, that information's there, I'll get to it later. That type of attitude.
Yeah.
Where, like, even sort of prior to the internet being a common thing, people, when they got information back in the day, so to speak, that was a hot topic. You'd be talking about it. People would be looking into it. Oh, I knew so-and-so who was there, and, et cetera, et cetera. Where now it's sort of like, okay, an hour later there's more information, and now we've got something else and something else, and people are just getting overloaded with signaling. And I think that's kind of created a negative response in the sense of, if anything, people just go, oh my God, I just can't be bothered reading that or looking at it. I mean, I know myself, like now we've all got iPhones and stuff like that. I mean, how many people send you links to things or memes or stuff like that? And you're like, oh man, I'm my mind's gone today. I just want to put my feet up. I've had enough. But there's just all this information coming in and in and in. So yeah, if you understand where I'm getting at with this, is that information overload is causing a negative effect, where normally if someone was just getting a little bit of information, they'd dedicate some time to look into it, where now it's like, oh yeah, another piece of information, yeah, I'm not interested type thing. And I think that's what they're relying on these days to be able to get away with what they do.
Yeah. And I guess the other point as well, if you actually do go and look, especially if you look at gun stuff, like for bows, for example, if you searched in Google, that first page in Google would be everything related to just how bow hunting's bad. So you have to go down like 2 or 3 pages to start getting some sort of, well, I would call unbiased sort of reporting.
Well, there's some of the problem, holding the media accountable a little bit more. That would be another good start if you were to run for GM.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and that's the problem with it. I mean, when you see things being reported, I mean, and look, I've suffered it. I mean, look what they did a few years ago when they ripped all my footage. Channel 9, The Verdict, and then all the other channels did it. And I mean, Channel 9 was the worst because they sped up my footage to make that other shotgun cycle a lot quicker and all this sort of thing. And it was at that point. Prior to that, I was fairly, I guess, supportive of media, going, oh no, well they just report things. They've got their place and their function. But I don't look at it that way, and not now, because I was on the blunt end of the stick with regards to seeing how they manipulated things to fill their own agenda. And I tell you what, it's a hell of a wake-up call when that happens, because you suddenly realise that the media have their own agenda and they're pushing that certain agenda onto the masses. And you're always taught to believe that, the media are, they're accountable and they're fair and honest and it's all equal and things like that. Well, that's not certainly what happened with me. Far from it. They did everything they could to push for that lever action shotgun ban, and that came from the top down federally. And look what happened. We all copped it, didn't we? Every state pretty much, it was put from category A to category B, and then anything over 5 rounds is category D. And as I said when I was interviewed by ABC, believe it or not, I was interviewed on their radio on their drive program. And I said, well, as a federal pest controller, I said, this is how ridiculous it is. I said, as if for federal pest control, I'm going to buy a 6-round lever action shotgun, when under that category D, I can have a semi-automatic 223 with a 100-round drum magazine. Like, which would you go for? Let me think.
Yeah, I guess that sort of goes further into like the laws just don't make sense. There's no consistency.
No, mate. There's not, and I think that's the biggest frustration, because a lot of people who have come to my page and who have been, I guess, perhaps even neutral or even on the anti side, they say, like, what is it that you really want? What are you pushing for? And I simply say, I'm pushing for people to be able to access various categories of firearms. Simple as that, without restriction. In the sense of, I find it absolutely crazy that. So this was one of my biggest beefs that I had at the time, and this went to a ministerial complaint, and still didn't go anywhere. Like, they agreed with me and said it was crazy, but then they didn't change anything. So the laws up here, as a feral pest controller, carrying a Cat H handgun for feral pest control, which I did, I had to have the pistol in a holster, which, fair enough, but it had to be concealed by my clothing. Right. So So I had to wear a jacket or something like that. You know, I'm doing contract shooting. One of the contracts I was on, it was 48 degrees heat. Like, I'm not really keen on wearing a jacket to conceal my handgun. But a primary producer that I'm working for on that same property, if he has Cat H for that property, he can have that in an exposed holster and walk around all day long with it. No problem. But it's an offence if I don't conceal it, and when it's in the holster.
Wow.
However, on the other side of it, if I pull it out of the holster, that's fine. I can walk around all day with it in my hand on that property. No problem. But as soon as it goes in that holster, it has to be concealed. Otherwise, I commit an offence. Like, you know, so it's things like that that even politicians look at who have no idea about firearms. And yeah, their words to me was, that's ridiculous. And it's like, yes, please do something about it. You know, but they don't want to touch it because the media will jump on them. This is their own words to me. The media will jump on them as being pro-gun and they'll lose votes.
Yeah, the media's, yeah. As one of our mates said, the medias need to answer for what they've been doing, especially over this last 5 years, really. It's like the last 30.
I mean, it's hard enough being a law-abiding citizen and a licensed firearm owner, but having to remember all these rules and regulations is just this whole other thing on top. And like, it comes very clearly, Ozzie, how much you sort of know the ins and outs and exactly what you have to do down to that fine detail. Surely that speaks to, you know, the level that, you know, firearm operator or firearm owners have to operate at to just know all these things. And certainly when I speak to people who aren't familiar with firearms and firearm ownership, and they go, oh, you can just do this and this and this. And I'm like, no, actually, I have to do this, and I can't scare anyone by, you know, waving it around the place, or even when I'm taking it and putting it in my car, like I have to be careful who's around the place and all these sort of hoops I have to jump through. And they're like, oh, really? And I just think people just don't know. So, I mean, I guess I'm sort of coming to a question, which is, how do you think we should better educate people? Is this a thing that should start in schools? Is it, I mean, the media aren't going to take it up. So how best to educate the wider community, do you think?
And that's the problem. Like, you know, it would be great to start it in schools. I mean, shooting used to be in schools, you know, as an actual sport. We're not talking about mass school shootings here, obviously, but, you know, the mindset is completely changed now. And you'll have most schools who are too afraid to take that on, because they don't want the heat from, you know, from the do-gooder brigade, who are accusing them of basically raising killers at their school. You know, so it always gets taken to a very outlandish level in my view. But I think the best way to do it, in all honesty, and that's what I've said for numerous years on the channel, there's a list of things, but the most important thing is to take someone who doesn't have a license, not into shooting, take them to a range and give them a lick of the ice cream, as I like to say. You take one lick, you're hooked. You know, most people are. If you do it properly, and what I mean by do it properly is when you take someone to a range, take them to a range, show them the fundamentals of shooting, you know, some positions and things like that, how a bolt action works. And for God's sake, don't start them on a 308. You know, like you know, like start them on a 22. I don't care if it's the biggest bloke in the world or the smallest framed female in the world, whatever, all the same. Start them on a 22. And then they get the fundamentals, and they're having a heap of fun. A friend of mine, his wife, like, he's a shooter, and his wife was, you know, hadn't shot at all. And he asked me, he said, would you you know, teach her, or, you know, get her involved, because she'd probably listen to you. So, you know, we did. We went to a range, and anyhow, she was trembling, and I said to her, I said, when she was trembling, I sit behind 22. I said, just tell me. I said, tell me why you're trembling. I said, be honest. And she goes, oh, I'm frightened of guns. And I said, yeah, why? I said, is it the things that you've heard? I said, just tell me. And she goes, yeah, it's just all the stuff, you know, like in the media and things, like I'm afraid of them. And I said, no, that's fair enough. I said, I can assure you. I said, after you pull the trigger, I said, with everything I've shown you, I said, you're going to love this. I said, so will you please trust me in that? And she's like, yep. Anyhow, she pulled the trigger. And she was like, oh, wow, it didn't kill me, you know, like, because the kick wasn't massive or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, she was just having so much fun, and she was just plinking away with it, you know. And then, only then, I'll say to them, you know, if they want to, you can try a larger caliber like a 223 or something like that, but you keep them on a rim fire. You know, I mean, you see videos even on YouTube and stuff, and it just infuriates me where you see some guys there and they've got a girl, like especially their partner, who you want to encourage, because if you don't encourage, well, what's going to happen on the weekend? They're going to want you to spend time with them and not go out to the range. So it's a no-brainer. Get them involved. And so, you know, but they do. They get them there, they put them behind a 30-06, and then next minute the scope comes back, opens their eye up, and, you know, and they're bleeding everywhere, and the bloke's laughing on camera filming it. Well, what have you done? You've just ruined that woman for life. Like, she won't go anywhere near a firearm, but you do it responsibly. Do it with a 22. Or, you know, even a 22 Magnum, if that's all you've got, you know, or 1.7 HMR, just something that's just not going to frighten them, and just get the fundamentals down. That's the first step, to be able to do that. As they get into it, well, they'll learn through the school of hard knocks what the laws are like, because they'll be, you know, subjected to them and treated, you know, by the different firearms registries in the way that they do treat licensed shooters. So they'll get to see that. So that'll light the fire in them with regards to voting for the right people. So, you know, that's the next step, is once they're into firearms, you know, get them to obviously have that interest to go, hey, do you like being treated like this? Well, you know, how about you join me and we vote for someone who is more firearm friendly? You know, things like that. Get people involved. So then, if they can, on election day, which is extremely important, to be handing out flyers. You know, I mean, this last election up here, or the federal election, I mean, obviously it was down there too, but I mean, it was disgraceful. I mean, I was watching the Greens, and they were targeting young people, like, you know, sort of like about that university level. And they were just in their face with these flyers. But what they were doing to the potential voters is they're going, do you want, like, no hex debt? Go to university, completely free, vote for the Greens. That's what they were saying, stuff like that. And, you know, and these kids, as I call them, you know, because they're all like, you know, 18, 19, they are pretty young. And they're going, oh, cool, you know, because they know no difference about any of their socialist you know, agendas or anything like that. They got no idea. They're just like, oh, cool, no hex debt, that'd be awesome. You know, and then we had one Greens member up here who was a trans woman, I think, was the identification. And, you know, and one of the policies was free sex changes for transgender people under the Greens. You know, so then they were, you know, then they were pushing for all that. But my question to people, who's going to pay for all this? You know, I mean, and that's not having a go at their policies. I mean, I'd love to live in a world where everything's free. I would. It'd be awesome. But unfortunately, that's a fantasy. It just can't happen. And I mean, I've experienced that living in Scandinavia. Very socialist, you know, like, you know, you start off paying 50% tax on your wage, for example, because, you know, there's, you know, your healthcare is all free. So in other words, how do you pay for it? Well, the government taxes you. So, you know, you go up to like 60% tax. You know, one job I had in Denmark, I was, you know, paying 60% tax on. So, you know, you know, people go, oh, it's just so awesome, these countries and that. Like, well, no, in some ways, yeah, it's good, but in a lot of other ways, it's not, because things are not free. The government will always make you pay for things, whether you like it or not. It's sort of like the old magic trick, you know. Watch this hand, don't look at this one, you know. And it's as simple as that. But these people just, you know, they just lap it up. So yeah, you know, that's what we've got going against us politically. So that's why, coming back to it, why it's so important to be politically savvy and on the ball. And just, if you can't go and help out for a day, that's fine, but just at least put your vote where it counts, and encourage other people to do it. Also, too, if there's issues, like for example with firearms legislation or even like the bow hunting stuff like that. So what should be happening down in South Australia is there should be groups of guys, girls down there in different areas. So say, for example, there's you three guys, hypothetically, I mean, I wouldn't know, but if you all live in the same electorate, well, one of you phone up the local member and say, look, we'd like to make an appointment with you. I'd like to come in and discuss a few matters. And then you go in there and sit down and just, and you articulate yourself and say, this is why I disagree with it. I would like your support, because so many people say to me, Ozzie, what do I actually ask them? Well, it's pretty simple. Ask them for your support. If you go in there, you can just have a whinge and get it all off your chest. But if you don't ask them to do anything, they'll go, oh, thanks very much for coming down, shake your hand, out the door you go. Nothing else changes. You have to ask them to do something or ask them for support. So, those sort of things are extremely important. That is the only way that I can see, things actually changing, through education, but also too, it's so important. I mean, I do it repetitively every time I go down. I hand out how to vote cards for various different parties, but the amount of shooters that go off, like for example, when I was handing out how to vote cards for like One Nation, right? Now, shooters like, oh, Pauline, and they're going off about her, and I'm just going, okay, but my alternate is what?
Exactly.
People who openly are telling me they want to take my firearms. Yes, is she the most pro-gun politician there is? Probably not, but it is a better option than voting for, say, for example, the Labor Party candidate or the Greens candidate, who I know are hell-bent on taking what I love away from me. It's just using your head, but there's so many guys out there that will just go, nah, not voting for any of them, whatever. It's like, hand your firearms in now, because you're not helping us. And that is the most frustrating thing. We have 1 million of us, guys, 1 million of us in this country. Include our families or even just immediate, our best mates or whatever, we would probably have a voting power of about 2 million votes. That 2 million votes, if we all voted as one, we could shape any election the way we wanted, and we could get the changes that we wanted. But what's stopping us is shooters being too arrogant, the infighting, and not voting as one and using our heads. And until that changes, nothing will change on the gun law scene, in my view. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, very well said.
Yeah.
Agreed 100% with you, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are our own worst enemy at times. You see the infighting. It's like, what are you doing, guys?
Yeah.
We should all be on the same team.
Yep. It is, mate. It's very hard. It's very, very frustrating. I mean, I remember. I mean, look, he's retired now, but there was one of the managers for one of the SSAA ranges that I went to many years ago, and I'd spoken to him about these proposals that the then Labor Party were trying to introduce here in Queensland. I mean, it was insane. I mean, in the proposals was even cigarette lighters shaped like a firearm were going to require safe storage. There was also slipped in there that any decision by weapons licensing would be final, and there was no right to appeal through the court process. There was a whole heap of stuff like that. Even going to and from a range required trigger locks. It was insane. And I must admit, I fought extremely hard on that to try to get as many people involved in key areas to fight back on it. I'm happy to say the only thing that got through was 15-round magazine limit for a detachable mag on a bolt-action centerfire, or a 10-round for a detachable mag on a pump or a lever centerfire. That was pretty much all that got through out of all that stuff, and it was a horror. And I'd said to this manager, this SSAA manager at the time, I told him about that. I said, mate, what about even the trigger locks? I said, that is just getting worse and worse. What's next? We're going to have a safe in our vehicle to come out to the range. And, and his response to me was, it's not that bad. And I'm like, man, you're not seeing where this is going. And look, this is no dig whatsoever at SSAA. People have their own, thoughts and opinions on various different branches. They change from branch to branch on what they support and what they don't. But that's an example of, he wasn't willing to stand with me. He was quite happy. His view was, I'm quite happy with those restrictions. And it's like, well, I'm not, because it's not like they're going to get to a certain point and say, okay, guys, we're going to call it a day now. We've got what we've got. Well, sorry, there is a point. That's when they take the last 22 out of your hands. And anyone who disagrees with it, as I've said to them numerous times on the channel before, just don't take my word for it. People can call me a conspiracy theorist, whatever they want to call me in relation to that. Just look at what's happened since 1996. Once again, if you go into the PM transcripts, it's clearly there on the web. John Howard's words, word for word, on when he addressed all of us in 96, and he said there's no other way. We've just got to get semi-autos. And he even said there, I've heard reports that this is the start of some kind of path to disarmament. This is certainly not the case, ladies and gentlemen, certainly not the case. And I'm here to assure you that this is definitely not the intention of the government. Okay, so what's happened since 96? Let's go through the restrictions. So obviously we've had magazine restrictions for centerfire firearms. Some states have got magazine restrictions for rimfire firearms. We've had cosmetic appearance restrictions. WA, I think, is just a complete lost cause. I mean, you get at one stage there, the Savage 110 bolt action rifle, if it had a pistol grip, it was banned, but if it didn't have a pistol grip, it was fine. We had high caliber restrictions, where pretty much anything over 308, you pretty much have to fight like all hell. I know here in Queensland they were doing it with like 338 Lapua and so forth. They were treating it like a Cat B firearm, where they registered that firearm to a certain property. That was it. You couldn't use it anywhere else. So we've had that. Obviously, we've had all the restrictions there, with pistols. We've had the lever action shotgun ban, so we can't have anything over 5 rounds there. And the list just keeps going on and on. So anyone who doesn't believe me, just simply take the time to have a look at the meaning of disarm or disarmament in the dictionary. And it simply means to take firearms or take weapons from a person. So what are they doing? It's clearly there, it's clearly happening, but we still have shooters with their heads in the sand going, oh no, it's not happening. Oh no, these are only sensible restrictions. The problem is there's a pie, and each year they take a piece of that pie. Even if it's just a few crumbs, they still take a piece of that pie each year, whether it's restrictions on the amount of firearms you can have of a certain caliber, which is their new flavor they've been doing for the last couple of years. So if you've got a 223 and you want another 223, they'll go, hang on, why do you want another one? You've already got one, and there's restrictions there, even though the legislation doesn't say that there's restrictions on, more than one of the same caliber. They'll still do that. So if that keeps going on, and from history since 96, that process continues, where do you think it will end up? There will be no firearms left.
Yeah, it's a gradual erosion.
It is. Yeah. It is. Hopefully, because we have social media now, we have a bit more of a voice, or the ability to be a bit more squeaky and be heard, at least, to stop this.
It should be the case, but
I think the most important thing is being a united front. As Ozzie mentioned, like, we all got to actually be on the same page and present a unified argument.
It's almost got to the point now though, where enough's enough. They've taken what they've taken, no more. That's it. No matter, in my mind anyway, it's almost like, even if it's a fair point, I would probably just disagree with it, because they've got enough, and what's in place is good enough. So I just wouldn't support any more restrictions, and unless we look at it like that, no, enough's enough. You're not getting any more. Well, they'll keep taking that inch, of the pie, or that little crumb of the pie, and then, 50 years down the track, that's it. They've got the whole lot.
Well, it's here in Queensland now. We've had the last sort of 2 years. They've been on a bit of a rampage with getting Cat H off farmers. So how they've done it, and I mean, there's nowhere in the legislation does it say this. All they've done is they've changed their policy. And that's what happens when they can't change the legislation. They just simply change policy and enforce it like it's legislation. So what they did in relation to that is it was clearly for many, many years on weapons licensing homepage, web page there, that you needed a minimum of 500 acres to be considered to have cat H for primary production. That was their guidelines. So what they did pretty much overnight, and I remember at the time I did a big post about it, and I got hundreds of people to write ministerials and join me in the fight with that, was they changed it to 5,000 hectares. So went from 500 acres to 5,000 hectares as a minimum, which just cut out how many farmers.
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone has 5,000 hectares as a minimum. So then after the ministerials went in and there was a big hoo-ha about it, they've then innocently gone, oh no, we didn't mean 5,000 hectares, we mean 5,000 acres, which is still a fair size.
Yeah.
It's a big jump.
You know,
It almost feels like that's not right, because obviously Queensland, you can get into croc country, you can get into buff, scrub bull, pigs. So that just doesn't seem fair. What, you just got to carry a knife around with you, like if you get into a pickle.
Yeah, it is ridiculous, mate. I mean, even now, you know, and I've said this for years as well, but they're now coming after the vet surgeons that have got cat H up here now. So they're being put through the ringer. And the reason that they're being put through the ringer is why? Because they're saying to various vets, oh, there's only a handful of you with handguns. Why? What are the other vets doing? They don't obviously need them, so why do you? Once again, not being united. You know, even if you have little use for a cat H as a vet surgeon, my view is apply for it and get it, because you're entitled to do it under the legislation. And once again, because it's that old saying, you know, safety in numbers. Why do you think it's so much harder for them to attack cat A and B? Because there's 1 million licensed shooters in Australia that have it. And that's why they go around the fringes and they're attacking things like cat H for farmers, where, you know, there'll be a couple of hundred. That's why they then attack cat D for feral pest control, because once again, a couple of hundred people there, probably in each state. You know, so they're trimming the edge off the pie. And this is what I keep saying to people. Well, once they trim that edge off the pie, do you think they're going to go, oh, look, we'll just call it a day now, it's all good, we won't push for any more restrictions? You know, I mean, I saw a document there from one of the federal police minister meetings there. It was about 04, 05 around there, and I ended up posting it. And it was their proposals on what they wanted with gun laws. And basically anything that was over 1 or 2 round capacity was to go to a higher category. So a 5-10 shot magazine, you're in cat D. Didn't matter whether it was a bolt action, pump action, or whatever. You know, and this is the sort of people that you're dealing with. These people haven't suddenly retired or given up the game. These are the sort of people that, you know, you're dealing with. And like I said, I've seen it firsthand as a licensed shooter. I've been putting up with this for a long time, having had licenses for various different reasons, from primary production to feral pest control. I mean, you know, I'm a collector for every category as well. So, you know, I've seen the methods and I've seen how they approach it. And my view is that it is completely misleading and sneaky the way they go about doing it. And the ultimate goal is to remove as many firearms as they can from licensed people.
Quick question. Do you think that we could lobby and try to get through and take, maybe you could consider it taking back a bit of ground, and that's getting semis, or the purpose of use for semis, competition gun shooting? Do you think that's possible?
In the short term, no. I think where the next fight is, this is just my take on it. I think where the next fight is having Cat C for voluntary pest control. And why I say voluntary pest control is because currently, you know, under the various different states, is everyone can have Cat C for primary production, or even for feral pest control. That's Australia wide. So where the legislation, all you would need to do is change one word to say, for it to include voluntary pest control, because why does it have to be paid? That's my argument on it. So therefore, it's once again, it's not about the person, it's about the overall goal here. The overall goal is to reduce the impact of feral pests on the agricultural industry each year. So give people the tools to be able to do that. So what would it matter if, okay, so I'm a farmer and I say to you, okay, I want a hand with you coming out and controlling feral pests. And let's be honest, the reason why you have semi-automatics to do that in a business point of view as a feral pest controller or a farmer is because on a single encounter, you want to take maximum numbers. You don't want to be there. You're not there to take a trophy and just shoot one and get a photo beside it or anything like that. You're there to get maximum numbers. You cannot do that unless you have a semi-automatic firearm. And the main reason behind that, and anyone listening to this is key information when you're applying for a license for a semi-auto, is because when you've got that semi-auto to your shoulder and you're following that game, your continual sight alignment is not interrupted as you're squeezing that trigger. If you've got a manually operated firearm, what's happening, whether it's a lever or it's a pump or it's a bolt, as you're cycling it, you lose your sight picture on that game. So therefore, semi-automatics are the only option, in my view, for taking maximum numbers of feral pests on a single encounter. And that's why that you'll find feral pest controllers will obviously favour those firearms. So as a property owner, why can't I say to you, okay, I need a hand to shoot feral pests here on the property. I'm not paying you because you're doing it voluntarily, which is going to help the agricultural industry because of the millions and millions of dollars each year it causes the agricultural industry in loss. So therefore, I write a letter to say, yes, you're coming onto my property. It's a rural property. I've got XYZ feral pests. Therefore, you can be given a Cat C license for use only on my property because that's where you do the feral pest control. I think there is a really strong chance of that happening and getting over the line because, like I say, it's the argument of actually doing something for the agricultural industry, but also what are we doing? We're not changing any categories. We're still saying, Cat C is still a restricted category for the purpose of feral pest control. But the key change that I would like to see changed is why does it have to be paid? Why can't someone volunteer to go out there and do it properly? Like, for example, if you had someone who was, volunteering at their local hypothetical, like Meals on Wheels, right? Like a lot of those people run off volunteers. Well, to me, it's like saying to them, well, no, you've got to wash everything by hand because you're not being paid, so you can't have the dishwasher, which makes the job easier. It's exactly the same in my view with the firearms. You're already vetted, you're already a license holder. So what's the problem? Why can't you come to me as a voluntary pest controller on my property and be able to have Cat C to be able to do the job and help out, which is going to help the agricultural industry overall because we basically have an army of licensed shooters who are willing to help completely free of charge.
Yeah,
that sounds like
It makes a lot of good sense and very well spoken. I think. Oh, just hang on 2 seconds. Josh has just nipped off for a quick break. Far out. Yeah, it's really good hearing people articulate things the way you do, Ozzie, and I think that's definitely something that comes across in your channel. Is you're quite well spoken, and you can just tell that you know your shit basically. And I think
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Like it just comes across. You can tell. You can tell when someone's a bullshit artist, or you can tell when they've actually done their research. They spend their time just completely immersed in the content.
And it also sounds like you've said it like a million times.
Yeah, I've had many a debate with numerous different people, and like that's the thing. I'm happy to debate anyone. On gun law stuff. I mean, I've had people come to my channel and try to educate me on it all, and I'm happy to debate them. But the problem is when they're proven wrong with something, well, then they default to name calling. You know, and carrying on like an absolute goose, and well, then they just get banned, you know. But then I've just wasted half a day when I could be doing reviews, farm work, or whatever else I want to be doing, you know, instead of entertaining some keyboard warrior. But yeah, many have tried.
How do you go with the comments on your channel? Because as I've just said, you're quite well versed and you're good with an argument, but you don't want to sort of enter into, you know, slanging matches with people. Do you get into the comments much with people? Do you try and answer people, or
Mate, not so much? No, I've really sort of had to back off in the latter years with it, because it just takes up so much time.
Yeah.
I mean, even questions like, you know, like I can see, like, on my phone's upcoming notifications of people messaging me in the background off the channel, you know, like, and they're asking me questions, and they're like, oh, what's your thoughts on this? And, you know, and I appreciate that they think highly enough of me to come to me and ask me for some advice or whatever. But I really try to press upon people, look, I've had to limit it to people who help me out on Patreon, to give you my individual time to help you with the situation. Like, you can look at all my videos completely free, and there's numerous hours of information and everything on there. But, like, for example, if you want me to help you get your license for a certain category, I'm sorry, but I've got to be compensated for my time to do that. You know, it's a long, involved process. The last person that I helped get his Cat D license, it was 3 months of helping him get that Cat D license. So there's 3 months of my time.
Crikey.
So what did it cost him in time? Well, he was a Patreon supporter at $100 a month, so $300 he was his donation to me. But at the end of the day, it got him over the line with the Cat D license with everything he needed. So, you know, I look at that and I think, well, geez, you imagine if you went to a solicitor or someone like that to even get them to write you a letter, you'd get charged more than that.
Yeah.
So I look at it and I think, well, look, fair's fair.
Yep.
If I went to someone else who was perhaps an electrician or something, and I wanted, you know, their advice for a few days or months or whatever, like, I wouldn't expect them to just be giving me a heap of time for free. It can't work that way. So that's where I've limited my my time in responding to a lot of comments on the channel, because, mate, there's hundreds of them, if not all thousands. You know, I just can't. I mean, because I got to the stage where I was sitting down and I was just all day just responding. And I would love to be able to do that. I mean, you know, if I didn't have bills to pay and things like that, it would be awesome just being able to go, you know what, I'm just getting up every day and just being able to help everyone. Excuse me, but the reality of it is it can't be done.
Yeah.
So that's where I say to people, look, you know, you can donate, and just general questions. People like donate $1 a month and they can ask me questions. I mean, I don't think it's much of a trade-off.
No, I think that's fair and reasonable. Again, it's something that's fair and reasonable.
Yeah.
It is so time consuming. I mean, we've experienced it a bit as well. It's just constant. And when you post something fresh and then the notifications start going, you're like, holy crap, how do I keep up with this?
That's only small scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it, mate. As it grows, it just gets bigger and bigger. And then you sort of you don't see all the comments, you know, because you don't have the physical capability in time and mental capacity to go through thousands of comments. It's just not possible.
I certainly wouldn't want to get down the path of doing the auto responses either, because people pick up on that as well. Like, they just, well, I'm not getting the person, I'm not getting a genuine answer, so I'd rather have no response rather than the canned response. We'll get back to you. And yeah, I don't know.
No response gives you the maybe. Maybe that was
maybe he'll find time in his day.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. We all lead busy lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, the way I look at it, like, people say, oh, you know, I can go into a gun shop and get free advice. Well, yeah, that's right, because the ultimate goal there is they want to sell you something and make some money. You know, and I mean, like, I try to be as thorough as I can with the reviews. So if the reviews don't answer the question that people have and they want more follow-up, you know, tailored help, like, they're like, oh yeah, I know you use this rings and these scope, but I want this scope for this and this, and it's like, well, that's what I do. I've got a group of people who donators on Patreon, like I say, from $1 a month. So if that's what they want to do, they get my individual help. And it's just that way of separating, having, spending the entire day just responding to people and getting nothing else done, to where I can go, okay, because it's a smaller amount on Patreon, well, I can spend, an hour each day just responding and just helping those guys out who help me in return. And that's all it is.
For sure. Well, hopefully a longer format chat with us can help answer some random questions that are out there for people. We do have to say a big thank you. Now, in terms of hunting, do you get out recreationally to hunt, or is it mostly pest control for you?
A lot of pest control, although at the moment I've got a heap of deer. I'm actually yet to release the footage because I actually got it on my good Sony camera.
Oh.
And the reason why I didn't take a shot is because, believe it or not, I had carpet cleaners turning up here, and it was like they were like half an hour away, and I'm thinking, okay, if I shoot one of these deer, like I don't know which one of the workers from this company are coming, and I'm thinking to myself, like, that's the last thing I need, is have this deer strung up butchering it as they're coming up the driveway to a rural property they've possibly not been to before. They probably think it's a scene out of Wolf Creek or something. So I sort of aired on the side of caution with that one and thought, no, I'll leave them for another day. So, that sort of thing, mate. I mean, that obviously classed as feral pests, but I see that as a recreational thing too, to be able to harvest meat.
Yeah.
I mean, the pest control part is dropping them, but the recreational part is obviously harvesting the meat and enjoying cooking with the meat and stuff. I find, like, it's once again feral pest control again, like going out with Hank and getting a few rabbits, well hares mainly. There are a couple of rabbits here and there, but hares mainly, and and then I cook that meat up for him and stuff and things. So kind of recreational mixed with, with the work of feral pest control.
Yep.
So it's just a different environment. I mean, I went down to Adelaide there, I don't know, maybe about 8 years or so ago now, and it was with Rusty, who was doing Southern Shooters at the time. It does that Impact Dynamics now, and I was going down there and doing basically running a hunting course and talking about setups and just how to hunt different game and things like that. And the funny thing was, I went down there and I said, the one thing I can't stand, I said, is these people that have got these like heavy barreled rifles, and they got these big magnification scopes and everything. I said, they're not real hunters. Like, anyone who hunts and shoots from the shoulder will have something lightweight, a lower magnification scope. And I said, all right, so pull out your rifles. Everyone on the course had a heavy barrel, a massive optic. And it was just you guys in South Australia, like, because you're hunting down there is like a lot of like foxes and shooting like 200-300, away at foxes and stuff. So, that varmint type setup is quite, popular down there.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, oh my God, and even now if I talk with the boys there, or even, Sean from STS Targets, like, I talk to him now and then, and, I always have a crack and just say, like, you guys with your heavy barrels, there should be a sign at the border when you come across saying, like, if you haven't got if you've got a rifle that weighs under 5 kilos, go home type thing, like, 'cause
this is heavy barrel country.
Oh yeah, exactly. Heavy barrel country through and through, where, up here, mate, it's completely different because we've got so many pigs up here, things like that, where really you're walking through bushland and everything. You want something lightweight to obviously lug around, but you want something lightweight that's going to come up to the shoulder and you can, be able to shoot off the shoulder fairly quickly with and everything. Where obviously a heavy barrel like a Ticker A1 TAC isn't going to be your choice to walk around with up here.
Josh has tried it
for a while.
Yeah. Well, it saves on gym membership, put it that way.
No, it doesn't.
I feel a light and got a Seiko, actually, so a little A7 Rough Tech, so that's a little bit lighter on the on the shoulders.
Yep.
Hey, Ozzie, is there a sort of dream hunt or destination for you that still exists?
Not really, mate. To be honest, like the feral pest control pretty much covered a lot of stuff.
Yep.
I'm not the sort of person. I mean, look, I know that I'll probably cop flack for this, but yeah, I'm not the sort of person that I never have a desire to go to Africa and pull the trigger on an elephant. It's just not me. I understand there's different, conservation and different programs over there that probably allow that and all that sort of thing. But just a personal thing, I'd love to go on a safari over there, but I'd take my Sony camera and get some different photos and things. That's just me. So I don't have I'm definitely not a trophy hunter by any means. When I hunt something, there's two main purposes: either feral pest control, but even then, I like to use the meat. So yeah, that's sort of my own. That's, I guess, my own inner personal ethics on it. And I'm not against people who obviously go away hunting and do those sort of things and go on safaris overseas or whatever. Like that's their thing. But just me personally, I don't. It's not something I'd ever really want to do. Same too. Like I'd never. I can't say that I would ever have any interest in going overseas and shooting a bear. That's just not my thing either. And obviously in some of the Nordic countries and stuff, like there's ice bears and stuff like up in the north there. Same sort of thing, mate. That just wouldn't interest me at all. I'm the sort of person that I like to bring the balance back in nature. I like to remove animals that aren't supposed to be there. So in other words, like the feral pests. But I also enjoy I guess hunting in the sense of I'm actually going to eat the meat. So for me, I'm not going to eat ice bear or brown bear for that matter. And I'm certainly not going to be eating elephant or anything like that. So for me, there's just no interest there.
No, fair point. I mean, a lot of people resonate with that, and that's the beauty about hunting as well. You can sort of choose your own adventure with your personal preference as well. So
yeah,
that's cool with us too, man, for sure. And I think the most important thing is you're actually utilizing that meat. And for us, that's number one. Anything unless it's a fox or something like that, if we're shooting a deer, then straight away we're in butchering and the work begins. So,
well, it's premium meat. I mean, I've often said to people, look back at, the times in medieval England. I mean, peasants were prohibited from, shooting the deer because why? It was the meat of the king or the queen. It was royalty meat, and for good reason, because it tastes damn good. So I see it as a real, it's a real good thing that we've got deer here in Australia. I think personally, from even a feral pest control point of view, I think it'd be probably a sad day not to see any deer roaming around here in Australia. I know numbers need to be limited, and I've certainly shot plenty of deer from a feral pest control point of view, and I understand the impacts they make, in particular to different cropping farms and things like that. But just in general, I mean, I'd hate to see them completely eradicated, I guess, because I know that they can offer a sustainable meat source for a lot of people.
Definitely balanced there.
With that, and your contract shooting, would you say that most of your target species would be pig up there?
Wild dogs.
Wild dogs.
Wow.
Yeah, wild dogs. They are out of control here. The highest I've seen in one pack is 36 dogs.
Right.
So in one place I was contracted to, they were losing a fully grown beast every 3 days. So so I'm talking a fully grown, steer, every 3 days.
Holy moly!
So you need a hand up there, or?
So mate, I thought originally, I honestly thought the property owners were perhaps talking it up a bit just to try to prioritise me going out there. The dogs were that bad. They were attacking the farm hands as they were rounding up cattle on their motorcycles. They were coming roaring out of the bushes and trying to rip them off the motorcycles, because they're Alsatian cross, like German Shepherd cross type, dogs. And they've got some mongrel in them, that's for sure. and they have no hesitation in attacking you and coming for you. The farmer's wife there, she was too afraid to walk to the front gate and back for exercise, which she used to do on each day. And they were getting that bad. They were coming in and they'd ripped apart a number of the farm dogs while they were tied up. So, it was pretty bad. And when I went there, so it was a couple of thousand acres, and not only was there one pack, there was 6 individual packs, and each pack ranged between 31 and 36 dogs in each pack. So, and that's how much was on just this one property. So, when you look at that, it's a complete different ball game to just some idle dingo wandering around some rural property. And that's why I used to always carry a handgun with me as a backup. So, I'd have like my primary firearm being like the Ruger SR556, and then I'd always have a handgun as well. There was twofold. One, if I did have any problems and I had to go to the handgun, whether I'd be in just confined scrub or whatever, I had that option there. But number two is, if I had basically winged an animal and it was still alive, well, then I can walk up with a 22 round for 10 cents and put them out of their misery. Where why would I go up and then waste another 223 or 308? It's because it's about making money. That's why you're doing it. You're not out there doing it recreationally. So so that was sort of the twofold approach there. But mate, I've had them attack me. I was thinking about that when you asked me about some of the most dangerous things I've ever done. Wild dogs did come to mind, because you can't negotiate with them and go, oh, okay, look, I give up, I'll leave the property. I mean, they want to rip your throat out. And when they're like that, there is only one firearm that you should have, and that is definitely a semi-automatic rifle or shotgun. You start dropping a few in the pack, the others get discouraged fairly quickly. But the thing is, you've got a handful of them that are coming for you at full pelt and want to kill you. So, it's an issue. So that's probably one of the biggest problems up here is wild dogs. Here on my property, there was a lot when I first got this property, a lot. And that was basically managed and thinned out through the use of Cat C firearms. I was able to obviously be here, and then my old dog Cooper, he used to alert very well to wild dogs. My new dog Hank, he's learning the ropes with that because he's still fairly young. But I can, if I'm here at the time, I can simply grab usually I grab the Benelli, and I'm chasing them through the scrub with that, and it just does the job. But you've got to have those firearms to be able to continually manage the problem, because if you don't, well, what happens? You come across the pack, say you've got a bolt action 223, fire the first shot, and you're racking the next one, and then trying to get on target again because you've lost that sight alignment through the sheer nature of manually cycling that action. Then you're trying to get back on track with it, and the dogs have scattered. So, that's where you need a semi-automatic, preferably like I always have, is with a red dot, because why? You're engaging them at those typical hunting distances, which is 75 to 125 yards, and sometimes a lot closer. So you need something that isn't obviously 24 power scope. Sorry, South Australian shooters, but and you've got to be able to engage and line up those dogs to take maximum numbers in that single encounter, because this is a problem with dogs. They're very smart. Is whenever I'd go to a property, I'd always walk around the property to start with, because the dogs had not smelt my smell yet. So they didn't associate my smell with anything. So I could actually walk up on them. Once you kill them, even if it's just a couple in the pack or whatever, it's like the bush telegram goes out. They've told every dog on that property what your smell is, and you will not come across them by walking up on them. So what I've found is that's when you've got to do a combination of calling and also use like baits, but not 1080 baits. I'm talking about attracting baits. Like there was a bait I used, like a dog in heat urine, and it had a bit of skunk in it and everything like that. So it's an attractive bait. It doesn't kill them. They can come up and lick it and eat it, but they're not going to die. But it's just to bring them in so you can shoot them. Because once again, coming back to being an animal lover, like I don't agree with them suffering. I like to put them out of their misery with a couple of shots very quickly, quick succession, and then that's it. Lights out, it's done.
Yep.
Once again, the dogs are doing what dogs do, what they've been doing for thousands of years. Getting in packs, taking down, different animals and surviving. So I see it as my job as a responsible shooter to get out there and euthanize them as quickly and painlessly as possible.
100%. Very good.
I'm still stuck on taking down a 1,000-pound steer.
Mate.
That's like I've seen videos of them taking down sambar or probing sambar in the high country, but I mean taking down a whole cow, that's like next level. And once they've done it, that's it. They're pretty clearly after that.
Once they learn,
so they know exactly what to do.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the thing with wild dogs is usually like you try to keep the levels down to about sort of 5 or under in a pack. Once they start getting more numbers from there, they get obviously, it's like that old saying, pack mentality. And it's so true. Like the dogs get more bravado about them, the bigger the pack. And then when you start getting packs of 20 plus dogs, that's when you've got a real issue on your hands, because those things will just monster most animals. And just like these, I saw it on my own eyes. They just monstered this steer, and they were eating it before it even hit the ground. They were ripping chunks out of its legs and underneath its belly and stuff like that, just into it. Because they had the numbers. It was like ants over this damn thing. And, there's no way in hell I would walk up to those dogs and try to take them out with a bolt action 223. Like, it's just suicide. So they're a very big problem here in Queensland, especially southeast Queensland, because there is that availability for them to breed and recruit domestic dogs. And what I mean by recruit domestic dogs is I've seen this with my own eyes once again. I saw a pack of dogs run through a housing estate, a rural housing estate, and they've got they sound a lot like coyotes when they're going off. And they were making all these noises, and there was different domestic dogs jumping fences and running out of yards and joining the pack and running off with them.
It's bloody cool to arms.
I remember at the time saying, like, people will not believe me. Like, and I saw it with my own eyes. And I've just gone, these buggers are next level smart, and that's what they were doing. So, yeah, very big problem.
Sorry, mate. Even with a semi-automatic, I'd find it to still be quite hairy dealing with like a 30-odd pack of dogs. What's sort of how close have they got to you when doing that?
So I've had one jump at my face and I've shot it midair.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, and mate, when that's happening, and that was an Alsatian cross, I tell you what, it's a whole new level. Like, you just go and you're thinking about your choice of occupation.
Yeah.
I'll bet.
Going, wow, is this really worth it? This is insane. And that's the thing. Like, especially if they've got, especially if there's a bitch in heat, in the pack, or there's pups on the ground, the aggression level just goes right up. And and that's why, mate, I've always carried a handgun, when doing the feral pest control there, because you go down, you fall down or whatever, or you can transition to it and use that to obviously be able to shoot more of them. But as I said, usually you'll get a couple of that will be very brave, and then others will scatter. But then you can have just that few more that may be just brave and go for you at the same time. And that's when you want to make sure you've got the right equipment to make sure that you're safe. as well, because let's be honest, like feral pest control as a business, you still have to adhere to workplace health and safety laws and legislation. So my view on that is having a bolt action is not adhering to the law. That'd be like saying to a builder, well, here's a hammer, go build a house. You're not having a nail gun. You know, you do it all manually and take your time. You know, well, no, it just doesn't work in this day and age. And I see shooting as exactly the same as well from a business point of view. You need to have the right equipment to do the job. Otherwise, you're just not going to make an impact. And that's why, you know, when there's articles released and I put it on my Facebook page and I just say, I've got the solution, give shooters the right equipment, and you've got an army of shooters who will eradicate the pest control problem for free. Like, you know, and it's as simple as that. Like, you know, like I say, it brings it back to that voluntary pest control.
Yep.
Get people out there with, you know, like Cat C shotguns and Cat C rifles, like a good semi-auto 22 Magnum, for example. There's a lot of things you can do with that. And get them out there eradicating the foxes, eradicating the, you know, the rabbits, the hares, you know, wild dogs and all that sort of stuff that they could easily do with a Cat C firearm. And then we can actually see some change and work together. But I don't get it. You know, it's like, well, it's not like it's how it is. They just don't want to work with us because they do not want to acknowledge, this is my take on it, that shooters could be a possible solution, because that's a positive news story and they don't want that.
Wow. I mean, I can't speak for the other boys, but I certainly didn't know the wild dog problem was that bad, like packs of 30 around the place. So far out. Cheers for the insight. Yeah.
6 packs of 30.
Yeah, 6 packs.
Six.
That's mental.
Jesus.
All right.
Yeah, mate, I tell you, when you're walking around in the darkness, and you can hear, like, you know, you can hear the howling all around you and stuff like that, like, and they're coming closer because you're calling them in, and everything's just dark and you're just waiting for a silhouette on the horizon or something like that to be able to see them. I tell you what, like, because, you know, you don't want to spook them with light, so you wait till they come in and then you light them up. And I tell you, it's pretty ass puckering at times.
I bet.
I'll bet.
Sounds like you like need a belt fed 50 cow.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what,
It's a vehicle.
Yeah.
Mate, it is really bad up here, the wild dog problem. I mean, I've got wild dogs continuous, so I've got another 2, 3 that are coming through. I pick them up on my trail cameras because I've got several of them, you know, around my property, and so it's good. I know where the feral pests are when they come through, and so they've started raising their head up again. But you know, I'll be able to take care of it because I've got the right equipment to be able to do the job effectively. Where if I go and just shoot one, well, the next of them they just escape only to breed up the next season, and then the problem just continues to explode. Where, you know, you walk up on them with the Benelli and you've got, like, you know, like 5 or 6 shots, one up the spout, you know, well, you can take a few dogs with that and you can actually make an impact and control those numbers. And without it, there's no way I would have those numbers controlled to the degree that I have for the last 8 years of being on this property.
Yeah, I feel like Ozzie, we could keep talking to you for the entire night, but I think it's probably time we start getting towards wrapping it up with you, mate. We've been chatting for a while. We have to say a big thank you to you for your time. We have to ask, what's next for the Aussie Reviews channel?
So I've been trying to organise one of those Bushmeister shotguns, the lever release ones that are really like crazy popular at the moment. So I've not seen one. I've not picked one up. But at the time of doing this, I should hopefully get one tomorrow. So we've had a big problem up here with PTAs. Like, I'm talking people waiting 4 or 5 months for a PTA to be approved. And there was figures like, you know, 30, 50,000 PTAs behind that they hadn't processed and stuff. So there's been some terrible delays. So the last couple of months for me, you know, I've sort of done, well, it's been good because I've been able to review some of the other products that I've wanted to review and do a couple of particular ammunition reviews, that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's because of the hold up with PTAs and all that sort of stuff. So so I should hopefully have that Bushmeister tomorrow. And then it'll be a matter of just, well, the next 5 days is set to rain here, so I'll have to wait till that's over, and then hopefully be able to review it from there. So I got that. I've also got a Australian-made gun cleaner that I'm looking at. I've got to review that. It looks promising. And the fact that it's made here, I mean, everyone knows that I love G96. I've been using it since the 90s. So, I've had no need to go elsewhere. But when I found out this stuff is supposed to be better, but also made here, I'm a big supporter of that, provided obviously that it's quality. I mean, if it doesn't work and doesn't do the job, I don't care whether it's made by my own parents. It's not going to get a favourable review. So it's got to perform, which I'm confident it will, which will be great because it'll be another option on the table for shooters here. Because as we all know, everything is getting so hard to get from the US. And I think at the time of doing this, we're down to like 62 or 61 cents US. So everything from the US is going through the roof. So I think it's a great time for a lot of Australian businesses to step up to the plate if they've got a great product to offer.
100% agree there.
Agree.
And how can people find you and your channel and all your social media handles?
Yeah, mate, just Ozzie Reviews. So OZZIE reviews, and just put it into Google. It actually does come up. They haven't hampered me that much yet. So yeah, it'll come up, and probably after you get through a few negative stories or whatever, they'll try to throw something up there, but you'll eventually get to the YouTube channel, or you can go to like Facebook. We're on Instagram. Even I've got like AussieReviews.com and .com.au. So should it happen one day where YouTube just axes me or whatever, then I've still got a website where everybody can come and be able to see videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Excellent.
Awesome.
You boys got any more questions for Ozzie?
Just a huge thank you.
Yeah.
It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mate, we
appreciate it.
Yeah, we've learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners will get a kick out of hearing you in a sort of a longer format than what they're used to. And it's been really good getting to know you as well, and learning a bit about your story and how you started with things and your journey. And yeah, man, it's been an honor, and we have to say a really big thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Maybe one day we can catch up for a beer or something if you're in SA or yeah.
Yeah, well, or if you're up here, I can take you out and introduce you to a few wild dogs.
Actually sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll see how good your South Australian bow hunting is then.
Well, heavy bowmen here.
Take it from a range.
Sounds like a plan. All right, well, we'll leave it there. Ozzie, big thank you. And tune in again next week for another episode of Centermate Podcast. We'll catch you later.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See you next week.
Gotcha.
Catch ya.